Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Creator Series. But instead of the fun-filled thrills and spills of Formula One, we think it's time for some endurance racing entertainment. It's great to have you all here along for the ride, a very first foray into this wonderful racing series. My name's Carl Paranik, but of course, I could never paint the canvas of commentary with all the colours by myself. That is why we have only one man for the job. His name's Tom Wilkinson. Tom, welcome in. The first dip into the toes of Le Mans Ultimate. It's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting indeed. The fourth string that we're adding to the Creator Series bow, just increasing the repertoire. F1 WRCI racing, and now we step foot into Le Mans Ultimate for the first time. 2.4 hours of Spa, 144 minutes. That's a long old shift for a lot of these drivers that are more used to doing probably half of that in the F1 game week in, week out. So it's going to be a big culture shock for a lot of drivers. The multi-class racing as well will be a big factor. For drivers that have done our iRacing series, we have significant multi-class element for that. But for the more regulars in the F1 side, that's going to be getting thrown into the deep end quite significantly as well.
Of course, there's so many different elements to talk about in the racing. We shall save that for the time being. But Le Mans Ultimate, and of course, what better place to go to? We're at the beautiful Ardennes Forest. It's Spa-Francorchamps, a track with so much history and character, it doesn't matter which racing series you go to.
Absolutely. One of the best in the business, so legendary. Just works in all facets, doesn't it? And the microclimate of Spa, we don't know whether that will have a bit of an impact as well and maybe just make it even more uncomfortable for the few of the drivers out there. But yeah, I don't think there are too many better places, if any at all, to start off this journey into Le Mans Ultimate.
With you. Well, I'm hearing that we will have some interviews before we get on with all of the wonderful fun-filled action of endurance racing. First of all, we have F1 Alex, who is joining us. Alex, welcome in, my friend. Le Mans Ultimate, we're here. How are you feeling for it?
I am buzzing. I can't wait. This is going to be one of the best things ever. I tell you now, this will be one of the best things ever.
We're so looking forward to it. And Le Mans Ultimate, you are well accustomed to this game, of course. Little plug, we did a race together. It was good fun round Imola. But Spa-Francorchamps, what are your thoughts and feelings? Are you feeling confident in the car of your choosing?
I am. I'm feeling very confident. I'm top of the practice session at the minute. Qualifying, I think the race is going to be between me and Ryan. Oh, and Liam and that guy Vince. So it's going to be good. You guys are in for a treat. I tell you now, it's going to be a treat.
We're here.
Fingers crossed.
Going to be fun. Tom, over to you. What questions do you have for Mr. F1?
The multi-class element, we're going to have a lot of people that aren't used to that style of racing coming over from F1 and other games in and around that. For you guys in the slower cars, what's your main prerogative when you've got the hypercars coming through? Obviously, you're more experienced than some of the other people, so may have a bit of a leg up in that circumstance.
Yeah, I think let them through. It's gonna be carnage regardless. There's some people driving the hypercars that got the game today. So I think when they're approaching, I think let's give them a little bit more room. Otherwise, yeah, let them through. Let them have their race. We'll do our race. And I guarantee you there's going to be a crash between a hypercar and a GT3.
Can't wait. That's going to be exciting. And from a physical standpoint as well, this is going to feel like a physical challenge and a real big mental challenge as well, because some of you guys will have done these long races before, these long stints in big endurance events, but there will be a lot of people, like I said before, that aren't used to this level of driving for this period of time. So is that another advantage that a couple of you guys might just try and work into a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I think when it comes to the pit stops are only 38 seconds long just for fuel, 52 for tyres and fuel. So you don't really get that much of a break. By the end of it, the people that aren't used to the long races, I can guarantee you their shoulders will be hurting a lot. I've been quite fortunate. I've been doing 6-hour solo races. So, yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. I'm not sure how ready the others are, but yeah, let's see. Let's see. It's going to be good.
Evidence dictates. Who needs a gym when you've got Le Mans Ultimate, ladies?
Literally that.
It's literally a workout in and of itself. Alex, we shall let you go. Enjoy this evening. Best of luck. And who knows, you might even bring home the win. We'll see you soon, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. Cheers, chaps.
No worries. Have a good one out there. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's first interview F1 Alex. Tom, filled with a lot of confidence for tonight.
I think he should be going in as one of the favourites. You can see in the practice times he's already dipped below the 220s. We're thinking from a qualifying pace perspective, that's the kind of benchmark. People that can get into the 2 minute and teens, the high 2 teens, the 218s, the 219s. they are going to be the ones that we need to look out for. He's in the BMW, which is an interesting decision. Definitely not one of the best cars out of the collection that the drivers can go for. Very drivable, but from an actual pace standpoint, there are definitely cars that are a better way of going about it. And we'll see from a couple of drivers maybe the advantages and the differences between the GT3 cars in particular as we progress through the race. So an interesting one just to try and keep an eye on that.
Absolutely. Maybe it's just certain affinity with machinery, or maybe it's just going for that less of a sharp end. But Tremor's trackside. TK is here and he is racing. Do not touch that dial. He is here. Tom, welcome in, my friend. How are you feeling? First Le Mans Ultimate race we are ever doing.
Yeah, very, very nervous. I think it's weird that I'm on this side of the show because I think it's the first time that I've been on this side of the show, but very much looking forward to it. I've done a fair bit of Le Mans Ultimate over the last few weeks. I think my pace should be solid as long as we don't crash.
Yeah, easier said than done, I can attest to that. But what has been your biggest learnings? Obviously, you've played new racing games in your time, but what's been your biggest learning throughout your journey in this game so far?
That cold tires are really nothing to be messed with. I think that's one thing that you really cannot take for granted in an LMU, especially when you have started on qualifying and you know everything in your bones and your body is telling you to go for fresh tires for the race start, but actually taking that quali set will pay you dividends in just having the extra heat for the race start, and it's something that you really have to fight against.
Fascinating, isn't it? And with that, I will volleyball over from one Tom to the other. Wilkinson, over to you.
Tom squared, spread across the track and the commentary box now. The pink bikini has become infamous now, running a beautiful livery on it, I have to say. And the only one piloting the Lamborghini tonight is yourself. Very good over one lap. How is the race pace feeling and the consistency from what you've managed so far?
Yeah, fairly solid. I think we've had some really good runs. I haven't done a full fuel run yet, so that's the one thing that we are probably lacking on slightly. But hey, it's the Creator Series. We don't want to put too much practice into it. It's all a bit of fun at the end of the day. So we might get to lap 19 and realise that we've forgotten to pit, or we might end up in a wall. Who knows? You'll have to watch and find out.
And you mentioned you are feeling confident. Who are the other favourites in the GT3 class that you're looking at that maybe will be looking over their shoulder at you in particular as one of the dark horses?
I think, obviously, you spoke to Alex a minute ago. You'll speak to, I think, Ryan in the next few moments. Those are big names. Vince has looked really strong in GT3s, and that Aston Martin has looked incredibly quick. So certainly him. But who knows? There might be people that have been doing practice behind the scenes that we haven't seen and may turn up to Spa and just have a performance of a lifetime. It's so unknown at the moment.
Close quarters combat around the circuit, Spa-Francorchamps, and we are looking forward to it. DK, absolute pleasure, mate. Go out there, bring it home for the commentary team. You got this.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'll try.
Absolutely. There you go. PK, ladies and gentlemen, so many interesting things that we're divulging into. Of course, regular Saturday audiences, you will well know the F1 side of things. We've got so many other motorsport elements to cover, and even just in his interview, we're just dissecting them one by one. It's so fascinating.
We've only really touched the surface level of things so far, and I'm sure as we'll get into qualifying, we'll get into the race, because we will have a lot to talk about, because it's a learning experience for everybody at this stage, especially first time that we're running Le Mans Ultimate in the Creator Series. We will be talking about the differences, the management the drivers will have to go through, whether that's the tyres, whether that's the fuel, whether that's the virtual energy, the battery as well, which will play a big part in the hypercar class, and the multi-class element that we've referenced a couple of times as well. As Alex said, I think there are going to be people getting caught out by that one significantly. I, for one, am looking forward to some massive airplane crashes, because it's the Creator Series at the end of the day, and we love a little bit of multi-class carnage.
Oh, don't we just, honestly.
Just a little bit.
It's not that we're into that particular side of the battlefield, but Ryan, L83, is with us, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in, Ryan. Great to have you in. You are, of course, a very big, well, you have extreme affinity with iRacing, I believe, off the top of my head. So this seems like it's right up your Strasser.
It is. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I mean, LMU, I've been really waiting for Creator Series to get involved with, and very excited to be here for the first official event for Creator Series in this. So excited. A car that I really don't like driving. Let's see how we go on tonight. Should be quite exciting.
Absolutely. We're seeing you just going round towards Stavilo 1, I believe, off the top of my head. What's been your biggest learning in Le Mans Ultimate? I imagine the characteristics, there are some similarities you can take from iRacing, but what have you brought along so far?
Probably the tyres are probably going to be the factor. There's a certain range of degrees you've got to get to before you see the true extent of the grip. So it's around about, I mean, this is now my third, fourth lap now, and the tyres are now at the optimal window to get the grip. So track position in quali is going to be key, but also getting the tyres up as well. So it should be interesting.
Ryan, while you're here, my friend, why don't you take us round a lap? You're heading towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Just take us through a lap in your own words of this beautiful Spa-Francorchamps circuit.
Thank you very much. So we've just gone through Eau Rouge and Radion, flat all the way through in qualifying. Just got to get the line right, otherwise you can get a invalidation. Down the cable straight. So for the GT3s, we're going to be braking just at the 100-meter board. Down to second gear just to get a bit of turn in, then shifted to third just to reduce the rear traction from spinning and losing the rear end. And then again in third gear, try and take it tight, but tyres are a little bit overheated now. Coming into the next corner, it's more got to be confident on the brakes. You can go to first to get a bit more cornering, then shift to second. Coming into this one, again, similar vibe. It's just preference, really. And then coming into probably the most difficult corner on the circuit for me at the minute, Puon. So I'm using the Toyota Gazoo Racing advertising board as my reference point. It's gone a little bit too wide there, but that corner as well, if you go too wide, you do get an invalidation. So again, you have to be very careful then. This is the part of the lap where it's going to be the most difficult because the tyres are going to get really hot on the rears. So you may see people switch between second and third gear through this particular section. Then on to shortly the back straight. Again, just taking a little bit of curb. And this corner is also going to be a very key one. Hypercars will take it flat. We have to do a slight lift down this back straight towards Blanchimont. So obviously going to be coming to the end now of this lap. So I'm going to take a very wide entry into Blanchimont. So you see me going a little bit across. We've got I think it's Peugeot up ahead just going through. Would take it in 6th gear, but I forgot to go up to 6. And then this last corner is going to be key, the bus stop, about braking. In qualifying, you could be really aggressive. Tyres are really overheating on the rears out of the bus stop chicane, and that's a lap of Spa. And hopefully that was a good one for you.
Look pretty neat and tidy, especially with the hypercars coming through. You mentioned your thoughts, feelings on the Lexus that you're currently driving as well, and it's got some really good strengths, but quite some significant weaknesses as well. Do you just want to talk through some of those for the people that are watching?
Yeah, so obviously these cars are fixed ups, of course, but for the Lexus, it's really unstable on the rear, particularly on the tyres. On middle part of the stint, I will struggle a little bit with overheating on the rears, so I'm going to have to be very careful with how I drive the car. But it's very planted on race fuel, but when fuel's taken out, then there's a bit of understeer in places, so it's going to be very interesting. But all the GT3s have got different traits and stuff, so, and with fixed setups as well. Some cars will be quicker on the straight than me. Some other cars will be quicker at the corners than me. So it's going to be very interesting, as I think we're just about to go to quali now, actually, chaps. So I will probably let you get yourselves ready.
Sounds good to me. Ryan, thank you so much. I mean, I could never explain a lap as good as you, but good luck. Enjoy the racing. We shall see you soon.
Thank you very much, chaps.
There we go. All the action from practice. A lap of Spa-Francorchamps. And that looked pretty clean and composed, wouldn't you say?
It did. And it's going to be really interesting, as we've said a couple of times, to really dig in and see the differences between the cars that we've got. Haven't got too many actual drives on the GT3 grid, but we've got a nice spread of cars throughout as well. And there were initially going to be a lot of Ferraris in the hypercar class. We were just going to see a sea of scarlet for the majority of it. We have thankfully got some divergence in there as well, which is going to make for another added little bit of a dynamic. Because if we had 15 out of 17 Ferraris, then might not quite have been as quite as interesting as we were hoping. But thankfully, we have solved that.
Indeed, we have. Many Italian stallions trying to run out of the stable. We've kept some of them shackled. Don't you worry. Naturally, they would want to go for it, of course. Ferrari, the last, at least in real life, the last winners of the World Endurance Championship race at Spa-Francorchamps. It's the number 51 Ferrari that took victory. Who knows what number of cars going to win? Who knows what car is going to take the win? We have multi-class, we're into qualifying, and if you thought that they would have their own track and have it easy, you don't know us, do you? They're obviously going to be sharing the same track. And that means they've all just got to watch out for all of these different elements as we see the GT3 leading the line, followed closely by the blue BMW hypercar. A little cheeky wave from the Aston Martin. But so many things they need to consider. Those closing speeds, difference of grip, and everything in between as we go onto a sunset Spa-Francorchamps for what we have no doubt will be electric entertainment all the way through.
And this will be a real double-edged sword because for the drivers that have spent a lot of time on F1, they're used to qualifying with loads of cars out on the circuit. You're going to think, well, what's the difference, the big difference for these guys? Well, normally on Ultimate, if you haven't done too much about this game, in the daily races, you are just on your lonesome out on the circuit. No other cars to deal with, so that is one factor we throw in. We've got the GT3s and the hypercars on the circuit at the same time, as you alluded to, Carl. Big closing speeds at certain parts of this circuit. That is something else drivers are going to have to take into account as well. And with just 15 minutes on the clock, and this being a long lap time, we're over 2 minutes apiece for every single flying lap, up towards 2-minute 20 for some of the GT3s. You're leaving yourself under the cosh a little bit if you struggle to get that clean lap time in.
Friends old and new as well, ladies and gentlemen, here for this first ever Le Mans Ultimate event, one of which is Dirt Chocolate in the hypercar, just rounding the left-hander. Up ahead, there is the GT3. That is the Aston Martin. In fact, it might well be the Lexus. We've got Ryan L83 out on the track. We've got Alex Lynham out on the track. We've got Skyzy here as well. Skyzy's here for the action. Rasin Chai, Nick Flies has joined the action, and so many other names besides. A great list of variety here tonight.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how easily the pace that we're usually accustomed to in the Creator Series transfers from game to game. We know drivers that have got strengths across all of them. Razin Chai is somebody that I'm certainly expecting to be very sharp, look very confident in practice as well in his Ferrari hypercar. So watch out for the Season 5 Creator Series F1 champion. We also know the likes of Ryan L83 F1 Alex, very strong and very accustomed to those GT3 cars as well. And that guy Vince, looking very strong as well. Bit of a sleeper pick, bit of a dark horse at this stage. In that Aston Martin that we know he likes so much across F1 and Le Mans Ultimate. He is going to be a big challenger because that car is very strong in the GT3 class.
Well, here goes the Toyota. GT3 gets dutifully out of the way, and Goma in the Toyota, making his way through to start his first qualifying lap. In the number, well, it is a Ferrari, but it's the 83 Ferrari instead of the number 51, which a smattering of drivers have taken. Mr. Tiamat Mardik, Benjamin Daly, and a whole host on the left-hand side. Lens the Goat being another name in question. But through that first complex of corners, you can keep it absolutely planted. A very decent amount of downforce in those hypercars. No ABS, though. That's the tricky element. While GT3s do have that luxury, the hypercars do not, and running it as wide as they possibly could towards that second section. Of course, a purple first split because they are the very first hypercar to properly attack this Spa-Francorchamps track.
Couple of tenths quicker than Punju, Eli Singh, who interestingly, according to this, has got pretty much a full dose of virtual energy, and that is going to have a big difference. The weight that the cars are feeling, got so much more fuel on board, that is going to feel a little bit boaty, especially through some of the high-speed courses. You're trying to grapple with the grip. The front end can feel a little bit lazy, especially when you're running that. So interesting to see the divergence already in the fuel lows and the virtual energy lows that a lot of the drivers are going for. F1 Alex currently fastest through the first sector in the GT3 class.
That GT3 class also is something we're going to have a razor sharp, in fact laser focus on, for lack of a better term, because it seems to be a really close field. Not that the hypercars won't be as well, as through the second sector split, there is Mr. Kyoso, who goes purple in sector 2. The hypercar first sector, though, has been taken by Skyzy in the Peugeot, a couple of tenths quicker, and he's absolutely flying out there. Similar energy levels, maybe a touch lower, but Skyzy absolutely flying out there as the second sector's reign in. The Toyota quickly takes that second sector split, but it will be a clean-up on the board, crucially. You have to get it right. Spa's such a long lap usually, no matter what racing car it is. That is exacerbated with the speeds of the cars we have here. A 2 minutes and 5.779 is our first hypercar time on the board. As across the line goes our next challenger, that is Punju, who is nearly a second off the mark.
Dirk still holding that fastest middle sector as things stand in the Toyota as we cut the beam. Fashol into third, slowest of the 3 times so far. Dirk well. I think a bit of a mistake there in the final sector. Yeah, lost nearly 4 seconds to Rescioso. So putting yourself under pressure there. Maybe some traffic that they had to deal with. But F1 Alex, fastest in Sector 1, fastest in Sector 2 in the BMW. So decent car over 1 lap. Might not be as competitive in the full race. Vince sets the first lap time of the GT3s, 22.2.8. I think he should be eclipsed by F1 Alex up to the line in the BMW. Yeah, 21.3. We should, by the end of this, start getting into those teens, those high 19s, maybe the 18s as well.
There's Skyzy, has a Cadillac in the way, but regardless, might have a tiny touch of slipstream to help him on his way. 2:04.244. He is a second and a half quicker than anybody else. That is a sledgehammer from Skyzy as Fabio, Mr. Emphatic, looks to respond in another 83 Ferrari. How many Ferraris can you have? The answer is apparently not enough. Towards the bus stop chicane goes the yellow submarine. Luckily, the weather is not submarine spec. Fabio's just going to make his way through the bus stop. Will be well short of the mark set by the competition, but plenty of time to get some consistency to ramp it up. You can just attack every single lap as into P12 in the classification, a 221.9. We highly doubt that is representative, but he is behind F1 Alex, and that is quite humorous.
But this is what we were talking about, right? We've got, 16 competitive lap times on the board, some of them not entirely representative as yet, but we're already halfway through this qualifying session. You don't want to leave yourself caught short, as Fabio, I think, jumped across the escape road there, going through Eau Rouge and Radion. So pressure very much on Fabio, who is, of course, back in the Ferrari, not repping the colours of Scarlet, but almost the away kit, isn't it, of a Ferrari? That beautiful yellow that we see just flash as he went through the bus stop chicane. This is El Tacaman, also another one returning to the Creator Series, and a decent start for themselves as well in another driver in the Peugeot, but not quite as competitive as Skyzy Allez Les Bleus out front.
Hayden Gullis, meanwhile, donning the green machine that is the Aston Martin. Absolutely love the Aston Martin. The visceral Valkyrie heading through the right-hander as Hayden Gullis sees nothing but pixels. However, on the track at least, he's seeing green sector after green sector. Rasin Chai takes the fastest time away from Skyzy. So a 2:04.0, it's going to get lower and lower as that energy burns off, as the cars lose the weight, as Gullis is being held up by one of the GT3 cars, that is one of the Ford Mustangs, does eventually, has to stick to the racing line. That is the racing etiquette that has been dictated here in this particular series, and Hayden trying to make his way through the second chicane.
Pushing very, very hard. Vince going even faster in the GT3 class, lowering the benchmark. We wait to see what that Aston Martin can do. Although F1 Alex, by the way, has taken it away. Already into the 2:19s. 19.7 for F1 Alex in that BMW. Ryan 83 looking strong as well. Here is Gullis. Was obviously hobbled by the traffic. I think it was Scotty Designs in the Mustang going through Pouon. Like you said, that Valkyrie, it looks mean, doesn't it? You can see it sparking away there over the bumps on the run down into the bus stop, trying to get it rotated. Not quite in the ballpark, courtesy of just getting hampered by the traffic, but a decent little lap time so far from Gullis, considering the handicapping that he had in the middle sector.
Allez Le Peugeot as well, as across the line goes Hayden Gullis for a 2:10.8. Those times will obviously continue to topple down, but Skyzy is absolutely flying into the 2-minute 2s as the Toyota Ben Law goes into P2. About 0.6 of a second in it. Skyzy is firmly locked in to Le Mans Ultimate, the experience, as through the final corner goes the Ferrari number 51, that right there, Mr. Kareem 17, crossing the line, goes the Italian Stallion, and it is going to be 12th place at the moment with a 2:08.8, but still 6 minutes to go in this qualifying session. Whether they've timed it correctly, managed to get those final few laps in, there's still so many lap times to tumble. Still some hypercars that haven't even exited out onto the track. Tiamat Marduk still holding station as Kareem just bounces over the curbs at Radion. We are watching, though, Mr. Tom Biener, number 50. It's great to have him back as well.
It is indeed. It's like a reunion, isn't it? Everybody getting back in, a whole Creator Series family that's going on, like you said as well. Interesting that Mr. Tiamat Marduk is yet to emerge from the pit lane. Of course, it's a different pit lane as well. For the F1 fans, we don't peel off into the pits coming through the, or we don't peel out of the pit, sorry, coming out of La Source. It's on the exit of Eau Rouge and Radion. It's spat out onto the Kemmel Straight as once again, Skyzy lowers that benchmark by a further 0.6 of a second, 2:02.5 now for the Peugeot.
Yeah, Skyzy is pushing it to the absolute limit. We're right on board with that number 50 Ferrari, though. Again, how many Ferraris can you have? Never enough, ladies and gentlemen. That is the correct answer. As towards Blanchimont goes the Ferrari car. Hold the throttle to the absolute limit. You don't want to hear it lift, and you do not hear it lift. As Alex, F1 Alex, Mr. Alex Lynham goes into the 219s now. Further pushing the limits as locking up. Without the ABS luxury, that is Tom going wide at the bus stop chicane. Shouldn't be an invalidation, but it will have otherwise hampered what looked to be a relatively strong time. For the Ferrari, it will be a 2:08.6, and we know there's plenty of time to find there.
Absolutely. Maybe just caught out ever so slightly by the Merc you can see in front. That is Jake Dent in the Mercedes, just setting a 2:25.3. It is, though, Ryan Lady 3 taking over in the GT3 class, 2:19.2, half a second quicker than F1 Alex. Vince third in the class at the moment, but only half a second separating himself. And TK from commentary corner, piloting, of course, the pink Bugini. Wide line there through the bus stop from Frachol, just trying to set up the run out of the final corner to blast down into La Source.
2:07.322 for Davide in the BMW, number 397. That's, well, more. That number doesn't even nearly come close to the amount of corners he'll be actually doing in the 2.4 hours of Spa-Francorchamps. The point is, second place at the moment at the purple middle sector. Razin, though, quickly snatches it from him. The 2:02.732, but the Peugeot is going fastest in that first sector. Look at this, pushing to the absolute limit. A purple split. Can it be a purple middle split as well? Like we say, all the time, they're learning things about the track. The cars are getting lighter. They're actually lending themselves more towards the driver. If you can just manage to whittle away at that first barricade, just get through that early phase where the tyres have to get into that correct window, you get the car up to speed, and suddenly you are soaring at Spa.
Just over 3 to go. And we are getting to the point of no return now. It is still El Tacoman that we're watching, with that fastest first sector taking half a second out of his personal best. A 10th up on Skyzy, a couple of tenths up on Razin as well, as we enter now towards Stavolo. Will we see that purple flash up again through sector 2? You bet your bottom dollar we will. And that is a big middle sector there from El Tacoman. This could be lowering us potentially if we can keep it on the road in the final sector. Negotiate the bus stop without any dramas. Could be getting into the 201s.
Taco Man absolutely going for it. Bit of an under the radar underdog, perhaps, in comparison to some of the names we expected to see at the front of the field. As Alex can't drive, clearly can drive. He's in P4 at the moment. All the names whittling away at the times. What can El Taco Man do, though? Is it going to be an absolute barnstorm around Belgium? The answer is it's P1. Fastest of the lot. That deserves a break of the sound barrier. Taco Man has absolutely smashed it.
French connection, first and second. Skyzy bumped down into P2, then the Lamborghini of Razin in third. Less than 2 minutes to go now. Vince fastest in the first sector in the GT3s for the Aston Martin. Haven't seen the best of Vince so far. Still in the 220s. You've got Ryan at 83. You've got F1 Alex, both of them in the 219s. That Aston Martin, not the outright quickest on qualifying pace in the GT3 class, but as a race car, it is incredibly strong. So if Vince can, well, if he ends up staying P3, he's going to be so strong over a race distance. The Lexus does look after its tyres very well, as does the Aston Martin, but the Aston Martin just with that little bit more downforce. It's a little bit more drivable over a race distance. Going to be interested to see how the BMW does as well, because that can really cook its rear tyres in particular.
Well, this is the situation. Class is split apart. This is the news. Ryan L83 leads the GT3 class at the moment because Vince in the Aston Martin is, well, he's absolutely carving his way through the Ardennes Forest. A green middle sector. It's a decent little split, but now it is that almighty push through that last sector where you daren't blink. Everyone will hear it. Everyone will call you out on it. You've just got to have complete confidence in the car, in yourself, and everything in between, as there's the closing speed difference is nearly nibbling away at the diffuser of the Ferrari that just raced on past. Was that guy Vince, but there he is, braking for the bus stop chicane. Car complies absolutely beautifully. Through the final corner, plant the power down, use and abuse the traction control as much as possible. Across the line goes Vince, and it is going to be a time of 2:20.096. So that absolutely astonishing first sector couldn't quite execute it in the last two.
Late improvement there for Gullis. Hayden Gullis just behind up to P10 in the Valkyrie. Some drives are done. Rescioso in the pits. Punju in the pits as well. Kareem 70 with an improvement to 12th on a 204.8. F1 Alex is done though as well in the pits along with TK. So that could be Ryan Lady 3 stealing the pole position. We've got a Mustang there. I think that's Scotty Designs. Stopped in the middle of the road. Razin, improvement in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Very, very touch and go at the moment with trying to eclipse the two Peugeots that have currently got a monopoly on the front row.
And the attack, the raging bull, as it were. I was going to say Italian stallion. I'm too used to it. But guess what? The lavish Lamborghini, 2 greens through the final corner they go. And it will be into P1 at 2 minutes 2. It's only 700ths in it. But those margins are getting closer and closer. And that was it. Right at the death. Can anybody else find the time? Vince is going again. He's got the lightness in the car, using all of the curb, of course. Track limits slightly different in endurance racing compared to that marvellous motorsport of Formula 1, depending on what your opinion is. But Vince flying it through Puon corner. There's a hypercar wide in the background. There's a hypercar behind. That's not so wide, still pushing on like a stabbed rat through the second chicane here, through the right and through the left. Beg that the car complies, keeping it cool and composed. You sometimes can't tell if it looks fast, but when you're using all the track like that, when you're pushing millimetric margins to utmost precision, you can tell it's fast. Down though, a 10th in the second sector, and it's going to have to be the last sector of a lifetime for that guy Vince.
It is, you would imagine, going to be Ryan or Vince. Ryan not improving, though, on his flying lap. Concept 7 is improving. Personal best in the first sector. Lost time, though, a second almost in the middle sector. So it's going to be Lexus versus Aston Martin, you would imagine. Still Razin atop the timing charts for the hypercars as well, without setting a single purple sector. Green, 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 take it away by 700ths of a second. Vince negotiates the bus stop. Front engine Aston Martin just struggling to rotate. Can we steal it away from the Lexus to the line with Vince? We wait for the timing charts to update. It is an improvement. Well, actually, no, he's 200ths of a second down despite finding a 10th in the final sector. The middle sector holding him back.
Well, right on 83 then, that is pole position primed and secured in the GT3 class for the man in the Lexus. At the hypercar end, though, at the deck, Rasin Chai takes pole position. Apparently, well, that's practice, never mind. I was going to say apparently he doesn't. But luckily in qualifying, Rasin Chai did take pole position, ladies and gentlemen, ahead of Taco Man in P2, Skyzy in P3, and then you've got Davide in 4th. Alex can't drive. Clearly he can. He's in P5. Ben Law in 6th with Infratic 7th. Rescue Kyoso in 8th with Tombina in 9th and Lens the Goat in P10. Otherwise in GT3, your top 3, Rhino 83, Mr. Alex Lynham, F1 Alex, and that guy Vince. Very close quartered. Wow. What a qualifying session. But really, if there's any series that you can say qualifying is one thing, racing is another, has to be this one.
Really tossed and turned, didn't it? We thought it was Skyzy that was the odds-on favourite early on. Ended up 3/10 down on Razin. Takaman, the lead Peugeot on the grid in the hypercar class. The GT3's top 3 covered by less than a second as well. So really looking at some fascinating dynamics. And we're also going to see who can translate one lap pace into outright performance over the 2.4 hours.
Well, we have a grid to go through, ladies and gentlemen. Also, a big shout out to Mr. Tom Knight in the GT3s. But for row number 2, we have apparently Hayden. There we go. Which I'll hold up, ladies and gentlemen. Well, regardless of that, you know what? Whilst we're waiting potentially for some starting grids, we have some shout-outs to give out. I will give some shout-outs. And that is, like I say, to Mr. TK, Tom Knight, in the debut of LMU, our lovely man who joins us in Commentator Corner so many times. Doesn't matter what the series is. An absolutely wonderful gentleman. Starts P5 in the GT3s, and he showed some decent pace out there.
He did. Very, very close with Concept. Very close with Riccio 3 behind, who's in that McLaren 720S. So going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. Traditionally, though, the Lamborghini not quite as strong in race pace as it is in qualifying because it's very, very heavy on fuel. Uses the fuel a lot, so you have to fill the tank up more. It's about 20 kilos of fuel, 20 litres, sorry, of fuel more when you start the stint. So that just could hold TK back in these early stages. But we know the raw pace of that Hurricane is very, very strong.
Rolling start, of course, we are straight into a sensational slobber knocker on race day. strap yourselves in. Like I say, do not touch that dial. History once again. We enter into a new realm. Le Mans Ultimate awaits, and the hypercar class are just making their way around Blanchimont corner. Of course, many elements to discuss when it comes to multi-class racing. Maybe some reflections as well. We have both sides of the tale. We have myself on the F1 Creator Series side, and Mr. Tom Wilkinson has been so enamoured, and, well, it's been a privilege to listen to him at work on the iRacing side throughout the course of this season so far. We get to join worlds, a clash of worlds, for the first ever endurance race on Le Mans Ultimate. You have Racing Shai, our pole sitter, on the left in the green Lamborghini. On the right-hand side, that was El Taco Man. Skyzy on the inside in the Peugeot. Davide, and they're all pressing that pit limiter as well, making sure the speed is limited. They're waiting to hear the green. Once they hear that, they can release the limiter, and once they do, it will be go at Spa. Hold your breath. It's a day of many firsts. When the green flag drops, it will be go, go, go for Le Mans Ultimate. That Spa-Francorchamps, judged nicely by Racing Shai, does slot it ahead at P1, although wide goes the Lamborghini. The switchback from El Taco Man immediately takes the lead on the run down towards Eau Rouge and Radion. A great start, an outstanding opportunism from El Taco Man. Racing Shai in P2, Skyzy in P3, Davide remains in P4. You can see the order on that left-hand side as Benjamin Daly seems to have made a couple of places from stone last on the grid.
Problems for Hayden Gullis, not least they've just got a terrible run up through Eau Rouge and Radion, drive-through penalty already as Razin shows the nose to the inside of the Lecombe chicane. Backing out of that one though, remember these tyres are going to be very, very cold as that is F1 Alex in the Beamer taking the lead away from Ryan 83 at the tail, or at the sharp end I should say, of the GT3 class. TK up into third, Vince bumped down to fourth, Concept bumped down to fifth. Then you've got Jake Dent in the Mercedes up to P6, pushing Ricky down a spot.
Great start from Mr. Alex Lynham in the BMW. Of course, they'll be using and extrapolating the various characteristics of their cars. They head into Pouhon corner for the first time. Like we said, qualifying is one thing, racing is another. We are going to try and keep an eye on all of the energy proceedings. And in Hypercar, at least they've all gone for that same energy level. They filled it up to the brim. Look at the confidence that Skyzy has on the brakes in that Peugeot. Able to have so much more determination and aggression into the braking zone, and also then hold the car in tighter. He's got immediate confidence in the car in race trim.
And you could just see there the Lamborghini of Razin unsettled over the bumps coming through Corporal Fred, just putting him off kilter ever so slightly, bringing Skyzy ever so slightly closer. You can see the Lambo sparking away there more than the Peugeot behind. Again, unsettled over the bumps. We're gaining on the run up into the bus stop. Is Skyzy going to be aggressive under braking? Still got a long way to go. Remember, 2 hours and 23 minutes. Don't want to throw it in the bin at the end of lap one. And we do stay as we were, with Razin Chai still in the Allez les Bleus sandwich. The two Peugeots first and third, with Davide just over, or just under a second, I should say, off the back of Skyzy.
Yeah, nose to tail from first down to 10th between El Taco Man at the front and Tom in P10. Ben Daly's progress has been absolutely excellent. Tiamat Marduk up to P12 already in that Ferrari car. Stonking start from one of our Italian stallions. A total of 6 on the hypercar grid, as cutting Eau Rouge very significantly, and Radion was Mr. Skyzy. Through though, heads the Ferrari and also heads the Cadillac. Punju versus Ben Daly. Porsche versus Toyota towards the Lecombe chicane. Holds it to the inside. Doesn't want to try and let the Porsche have a go, but Alex can't drive. Of course he's going to try and have a go, but defended diligently by the Toyota car. Alex Lynham still holds the lead in the GT3 class. Ryan 83, they've broken away. They're a class above the rest at the moment. Vince has gone up because TK's had a problem. The Lambo already into the pit lane. It's a devastating start for us folks in commentary corner.
Big issues in commentary corner. Had a chat with either another car or the barrier because there's some front right suspension damage there. Bodywork front and rear as well. And the Lamborghini not looking a pretty sight as he dragged the wreckage almost back to the pit lane. And coming into the pits at the end of the opening couple laps. Not good news for the pink Lamborghini, of course, though. there is a hell of a lot of laps left to go. A long, long way to go. Still comfortably over 2 hours. Let's look at this. Ryan 83 just starting to apply the blowtorch to the back of the BMW, which does, we mentioned in qualifying, work its tyres, rear tyres in particular, very, very hard. You'd expect, as we see one of the Ferraris going wide there on the exit, Stavolo just dipping a couple of wheels into the gravel. That's Reska Kioso, former winner in the iRacing multi-class this season, so definitely a perennial contender to be right at the sharp end. But the BMW, just to finish on that, does work its tyres hard. The rear tyres can skyrocket in temperature. That'll make it very tricky to drive.
And just in case all of you are wondering, yes, that is what Resko Kioso actually looks like. No lies round here. As through bus stop they go, they might look pretty computerized, but I'll tell you what, their driving's not bad either. Textbook stuff as they are hounding the Ferrari car up ahead. Lens to go, the red Ferrari versus Mr. Reska Kioso, the yellow Ferrari, making their way down to La Source corner as again El Taco Man sets the fastest lap in the hypercar class, 2:04.0. They're going to break those boundaries very quickly indeed. At this point, energy conversation would come into play. However, pretty much everybody started with full energy. At this point, they're all trying to suss each other out, play the aggressive game. It's more towards this middle stint of the race. It's a bit of a slow burner perhaps for some of you, but during that middle stint of the race, we will see those tactics come into play as Fabio peels to the inside of Reska Kioso. So confident on the brakes. Is that first 83? In fact, too confident. Goes wide and cuts the Lacombe chicane as Alex Lynham, well, has the fastest lap of the GT3 class, and the BMW and the Lexus, they're going to knock 10 bells out of each other this race.
Absolutely. I think Ryan will be fairly confident, though, in the early stages. Managed to keep tabs on Alex despite qualifying behind, of course, Vince in P3 at the moment, looking fairly strong as well, although 2.5 seconds off the back of the leading duo, not too much as things stand. Kioso and Infratic still knocking 10 bells out of each other. I think we may have been about to get a replay there of what happened to Tom Bina, potentially, or TK, who's obviously had his issues. Yes, this is going to be the pink bikini. If it was down into La Source, that is going to be unfortunate. Brave under brakes, the Lexus of Ryan moving out. We almost tapped the back. Is there going to be a pinch point at the apex? All looking so good as yet, as we, I think, return to live pictures on the rundown into Pouon. 1 minute and 41 seconds off the back of Scotty Designs. Got a lot of time to make up.
Yeah, Tom Knight having to hunt down Scotty Designs, by the way. It's an extremely unfortunate start here in Le Mans Ultimate. No pace cars to help out anybody that has a slight misdemeanor on the track. But the Peugeot through the final corner, that is El Taco Man. Razin has just started to gain back a tiny bit. An excellent exit out of the bus stop corner, though, for El Taco Man. Means, well, Razin actually has the fastest last sector, but fastest lap, again, belongs to El Taco Man. Razin, the only one at the moment in terms of pure pace that can really keep up, but they've got to be so on it. In terms of that concentration, as again, the 83 Ferraris go into combat. That's Fabio going through, potentially, maybe even defending from Reska Kioso, and Alex can't drive, could pick up the pieces. He's going to do well, though, to stay behind, just play it patient. He knows he's going to have the slipstream at a potential advantage, and slightly off kilter goes Reska Kioso. The Porsche can now extract the slipstream all the way down the Kemmel straight towards Lacombe. Maximum foot to the floor action from 7th down to 9th place. Again, super confident on the brakes is Reska Kioso. Fabio taking much more curbs, playing a more conservative game, but that's exactly what they need to do. So we quickly cut over to one of the Cadillac cars. That looks to be Kareem 70 in the Ferrari, having to do a bit of defence work.
Is indeed, as Ryan 83 now fastest lap into the 220s in the GT3 class, and we were talking about those two Ferraris knocking 10 bells out of each other. Well, they've clearly tag teamed fairly nicely because they have both got ahead of the Porsche of Alex Can't Drive on the previous lap. So Fabio with a couple of places picked up there, courtesy of the second move down into La Source to get ahead of Kioso. But this is the duel for the lead in the GT3 class, BMW versus Lexus, as we tuck into the slipstream on board with Ryan 83 looking over the bonnet of the car. How close can we get in the draft on the run down the Kemmel straight into the Lacombe chicane? ABS, of course, in these cars, so you can be a little bit dicier under braking, but both of them happy just to retain the status quo. Alex a little bit wide of the apex of the first part, and again using a lot of curve in the second part of the Lacombe chicane, the run through Malmedy. Interesting to see the differences and the divergence in lines here. Ryan really attacking the curbs a little bit more, probably tells you that the Lexus a little bit more compliant over the bumps and over the curves and can ride it, those undulating surfaces, a little bit better than the Beamer.
That is going to be one hell of a battle all the way through this evening. Just keep your eyes super glued to this, because BMW versus Lexus, It's not a battle many of you might thought would have happened, but it is the battle that is happening tonight. Again, the hypercars cross the line. Again, Taco Man just about a tenth quicker than Rasinchai, all beginning to stabilise. Reska Kyoso, though, slightly struggling. Alex can't drive, is now all over him. He doesn't have that advantage of being able to hunker into the slipstream of Fabio in P7. Alex has a great opportunity, about a tenth of a second, as something's happened to Punju. Just dropped down the order briefly, but Punju does carry on his merry way. Could have been contact or a mistake into La Source. Trying to figure out, doesn't look like there's much exterior damage, but a moment for the Cadillac driver, who was fighting towards the lower end of the top 10, was having a decent run till that point. As down the inside goes Alex Can't Drive, right on cue. The script is settled, and that is a clean and composed move from the Porsche.
Back ahead of Reska Kyoso, although out of Malmedy, don't think it's quite done yet. Just behind you can see Tom Biener under pressure from Dirt Chocolate as well on the run down in the hill into Rivage, but we do retain this formation. It is Alex Can't Drive in the Porsche back ahead of the second 83 Ferrari of Kyoso, catching them Tom Biener, and then it is Dirt Chocolate in the Toyota. Benjamin Daly after that very strong opening couple of laps, 3 seconds off the back of this group, maybe just was involved in that little bit of contact with Punji. They were definitely at one stage fighting over the same piece of tarmac. Maybe that explains the little bit of a difference and the gap that's opened up between 11th and 12th in the hypercar class.
Many, many tongue twisters in commentary corner as we ride on board with Dirt Chocolate stalking his prey. Usually I use the phrase red is what makes the bull tick. However, in this case, it is a Toyota. It's Japanese elegance and poise that is propelling itself along to the raging roar of the Ferrari up ahead, which is ironic because it is a horse, but slipstream towards Blanchimont corner we go. The three ahead practically nose to tail between Alex Can't Drive, Reska Kyoso, and Tom Biener. So Kyoso and Alex having those beautiful battles, that is one thing, but it does have that compromise in that you invite other cars into the battle, and where you can follow that much closer, the pressure is just augmented more and more as we head through yet another lap of completion here in the 2.4 hours of Spa. El Taco Man leads, Rasinchai in second, Skyzy in third, but being closed in by Davide in the BMW. Toyota in fifth, Ferrari line sixth and seventh, and that's because Infratic is trying to catch up with Lenz the Goat, and in fact is all over the back of the Ferrari counterpart. Alex Can't Drive has managed to get himself away from Reska Kyoso and Tom Biener behind, and there could well be battles brewing as we head on to the Camel Straight.
Dirk very, very close to the back of Tom Biener, really mounting the curbs up through Rouge and Radion side by side. In fact, I think the Toyota is just starting to pull ahead of the Ferrari behind this pair that we watch. Yes, you can just see appearing in the bottom of shot. Tom trying to keep his foot in it around the outside of the first part of the Lake chicane, turns to the inside, but wasn't quite given the time of day. That is Dirk, albeit admittedly at the moment returning to the top 10, although a little bit wide through Malmedy. Tom on the grass, locking the rears, out of control, slams into Dirk, both of them taken into the gravel at Rivage. And that is the first big drama and the first big contact we've seen in this hypercar class.
Able to reverse out and, well, a little bit of a nudge for good measure to say that wasn't cool, my friend, not this early into the day. Toyota and Ferrari licking their wounds. That means Tiamat Marlock moves up into 10th place. Sparks moves up into 11th place. They all inherit as a result. Here's the replay, though. Through the Lacombe chicane. Clean and executed move from, I was going to comment on just how good the space was that they left. Going onto the gravel, opened up the opportunity, but as soon as you get grass on your tyres, without the ABS, nothing you can do. Tom Biener a passenger, and Dirt Chocolate an innocent bystander.
Bit of a clumsy one from both of them involved, you have to say. Dirk just a little bit wide there through Malmedy, and then Tom braking on the grass, as you mentioned. So easy to lock a brake and lock a tyre. Once you do that, once you're committed down the inside, it's bumpy also on the run down into Rivage. So maybe an accident waiting to happen, considering how aggressively they were fighting amongst themselves. Tim Mallock has actually taken half a second as well out of Alex Can't Drive and Reska Kyoso. That gap just hovering below 3 seconds for the first time in a little while. So just keep a watchful eye out there on our Australian ace, currently in 10th.
Yeah, many difficulties apparently we were hearing, just wasn't going to happen, but maybe he wanted to start from the back. Well, I can't answer that question as a Mercedes already displaced by the visceral Valkyrie. That is Hayden Gullis. I mean, what an engine though. Absolute symphony of screaming as they head through Malmedy corner. Just absolutely divine stuff. I believe that was Jakey. That was Jake Dent getting out of the way, and that means the McLaren was able to inherit the position. So again, great initiative in the GT3 class. As we watch El Taco Man, already they've caught up to the GT3 cars, and the racing etiquette dictates that they have to stay on the racing line. It's up to the hypercars to get round safely. Blue flag rules, not like they are in Formula 1 as the BMW. My heart was in my esophagus for a second there as El Taco Man not quite able to assess the body language of that car. Razin goes through as well with very, very significantly less problems.
And this is where we're just going to start to see the experience maybe tell its tale. Nick flies on the inside there through the Fanier chicane. Razin has to go the long way round. The rule is, realistically, for the blue cars, for the blue flag cars, be predictable. Don't do anything that could just catch these hypercars out of kilter. As I think that's Fabio who tried it around the outside of Lenz the Go into Stavolo. That would have been brave if he pulled it off. Eventually, I think just getting run out of road and having to sit behind the lead Ferrari in the hypercar class. That is the battle for 6th and 7th. Ben Daly up to 8th. That is because Alex Can't Drive and Reska Kyoso have clearly had a drama out there as well. As into the bus stop down the inside goes El Tacaman, getting ahead of the Mercedes now of Jakey. And then it'll be Ricky 03 on the run out of the final corner before we get to La Source. That is the closing speed. That is the difference in power and traction and grip and confidence on the exit of these slow speed corners in particular. And Razin just looks to be catching the GT3s at the wrong time. Just caught short a little bit, hobbled at La Source there. Can blast out past the McLaren. That gap is extended now to 1.5 seconds. Skyzy, though, was dropped down behind Davide.
Well, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, isn't it, when it comes to getting round that slower traffic, because on some corners you can catch them at exactly the right time, as again, Jakey gets well out of the way. Not staying on the racing line, but equally not disrupting the action. Skyzy very quickly wants to set that score correct. Could use the lap McLaren ahead to actually disrupt the BMW, and does so. 3 wide, that was almost going to end in tears. There's brief contact between the Peugeot and the BMW, but France trumps Germany in this particular occasion. Skyzy up to P3.
Got to commend Ricky there as well. Managed that very, very well, considering he had those 2 hypercars jostling for position quite aggressively on the inside of him. Very much stayed out of the way and did a good job of keeping all 3 of those cars pointing in the right direction. Ben Law catched them as well. The gap just over a second. Good run, though, out of no name for Davide. Doesn't fancy it, though. Down into Pouon. Skyzy did defend it, so it would have had to been a long way around if the BMW was going to try and charge past that second Peugeot on the road. But as we are, 5 seconds off the back of Razin Chai, 6.5 off the lead, as that is now El Tacman getting ahead of Vince, who's been fairly quiet in these early stages at the moment. 3 seconds off the back of F1 Alex, who continues just about to hold on to the lead of the GT3 class. 1/10 of a second at the moment, though, separating the BMW and the Lexus, piloted, of course, by Ryan 83. In fact, there they are as they come up towards Blanchimont.
Just playing it carefully. Taco Man judges it correctly, makes his way through to the inside. That will send Alex a little bit wide and give Brian L83 the opportunity to just capitalise potentially into the bus stop. Razin goes through as well in the Lambo, so now it can be once again all-out warfare between the lead 2 in the GT3 class. But because of the disruption, we've had Vince also catch up by nearly about 7/10 of a second here, Tom.
And Razin's into the lead. So something has happened to Tackman through the bus stop chicane. He just got ahead of the jostling GT3 leaders and suddenly has got quite a lot on his plate as Razin takes over the pole sitter back up atop the timing charts. They're going to be nose to tail on the run up the hill. Throw Rouge and Radion. This is going to be dicey. The cars can get really unsettled over the curbs, and it's actually Tackman bouncing over the runoff area, over the curb on the inside. Will he get an off track? That we'll have to wait and see, because they're going to be side by side down the Kemmel Straight. Razin trying to box the Peugeot in on the outside behind TK and the Lamborghini into the Les Comps chicane. El Tackman very brave around the outside, and that is superbly done to get the lead back. He looked like he was going to be coming off second best in that exchange, but he's pulled his pants down a little bit there as Razin almost getting loosey-goosey as well over the curbs coming out of Malmedy.
That was TK as well, just sitting there quietly, doesn't have to do anything in particular. As well, we're seeing for a moment there's a brief yellow in GT3 as down goes Concept 7 for a brief moment. We have a potential replay though towards the bus stop chicane. There's Razin getting on through, and this is where the change for the lead happened. We are watching out for that Peugeot. There's the compromise. Completely overcooked it into the bus stop chicane. It's so difficult to have your head screwed on all the time, every single lap in an endurance race, even if it is only a 10th of maybe the distance they would do. But it's so difficult to keep that consistency. Of course, Taco has retaken the lead after that exchange, but he's not bulletproof.
Got it back, though, very, very quickly. And he's actually got a little bit more energy as well compared to Raz. And so interesting to see the lift and coasting tactics going on there. Battle once again commenced down the Kemmel Straight. This is Alex Can't Drive and Reska Kyoso getting involved for 12th and 13th. We've got a car off in the Armco there on the run down into the Lake Chicane. Not 100% sure who that was. It was a bright purple GT3 car, I believe. But that is Reska Kyoso once again sinking their teeth into the Porsche of Alex Can't Drive. They've already had a 1 or 2 coming together so far. I think that might have actually been Concept 7 off in the grass in the Armco in the Corvette on the run down into the Lake Chicane, because they have dropped down into 9th.
I saw the yellow dot at Laycom. I saw Concept 7 dropping down the order. Couldn't quite see it, but he's obviously had a major moment with, well, hardly any time through this race, ladies and gentlemen. Like we say, there's a lot for us to talk about, but we will get onto that, as here we are with Tiamat Marduk. From the very back of the hypercar class, he's already half the arrears. 0.8 of a second the gap between himself and Sparks up ahead. So how do you play this? Take as much curb as you can into La Source. Car complaining a little bit on the exit, though, as you just have to hit that sweet spot. Otherwise, the car spat out towards the exit curb and losing a couple of tenths. That is Punju as well, who's done very well to recover in the Cadillac. And the 2 old sparring partners in the hypercar class will go nose to tail once again, as Kareem 17 has peeled into the pit lane. So one of the first hypercars to properly blink, the Ferrari makes its way into pit row.
I think a bit of a drama on the previous lap, and Ben obviously having one as well with that 2:12.6 time, was running in position 8, now down in 9th, of course, behind Sparks, who interestingly has got the least energy of anybody in the hypercar class. So burning through that charge and that fuel a little bit more. Ben's going to have to keep it really tight here, going through Rivage, gets ahead of the jostling F1 Alex and Ryan Littlemore once again, who been joined at the hip for the entirety of the first half an hour or so that we have had, as dancing through go the other hypercars just behind. You can see in the background there, just working up towards these 2 leaders, the Aston Martin of that guy Vince. The tyre wear in the Aston a little bit better perhaps than the BMW, definitely better than the BMW, a little bit of an advantage over the Lexus as well, as Vince is just ever so slightly working away at that gap, as Alex and Ryan in particular getting caught up in the traffic.
The ebb and flow, a help or a hindrance, depending on who you are. Look at this, though. Again, just whittling away. 1.2 seconds now, the gap. In fact, very shortly, he's going to be well within a second. And then there's another conundrum for, so far, the class of the GT3 field in the form of F1 Alex and Ryan L83 to consider. Hypercars, again, cross the line. El Taco Man extending that gap a couple of attempts quicker on the previous lap. Both them and him and Razin Chai are just dominating, though, at the moment, in figurative terms, obviously. But 5 seconds worth of a gap. They are the class of the field so far, as again, rounding the Lambo of TK. That is one of the Ferrari cars who is giving chase in that number 83. Ahead, that is Reska Kyoso, in fact, because there's Alex Can't Drive in the background, making their way through before La Source corner. I've just been skirting around as well. We're hearing wing damage, rear wing damage specifically for Kareem 17. That is why that's why he had to peel into the box and just making his way very gingerly out of pit row. That's a stop-go penalty as well, we're hearing as well. So just to add to the woes of the Mercurial Moroccan, well, it's all unravelled in a very short space of time, but that is what can happen in endurance racing.
Unideal. Is it going to be for speeding, or is it going to be for crossing the white line as he powers out through La Source and onto the Kemmel Straight at the back of the snake in P18? I was going to say 17, P18, because he's now behind the Valkyrie of Hayden Gullis as well, and with that stop-go penalty, not going to be good news at all. There is the pink Bugini, the beautiful pink Bugini, the Huracan of TK, still trying to fly the flag for commentary corners. Off the road goes, I think that's the Cadillac of Punji, just trying to work through at the exit of Bonchmont down the inside. Now goes Tom Biener to dispossess the Lamborghini. Not a position, of course. I think this is a replay of something going on, but nothing particularly going on. Maybe some contact, but we didn't see any contact going on. It was just a little bit of a sketchy moment off the road.
We have Hayden Gullis behind, that is the leader of El Taco Man. In fact, wide goes Hayden Gullis, I imagine, just to let through Mr. Rasinchai, there he is, wide at the very final corner. Doesn't disrupt the flow of the lead fight. But remember, he doesn't have an obligation to let them through. Blue flags and endurance just mean, as Jimmy Broadbent said, a car is charging up towards you. Take care. No more than that. And that's exactly what Hayden Gullis has done. And so on we go. On board with Hayden Gullis and down towards the Eau Rouge and Radion complex. Suspension compresses. You hear that tiny lift through the Eau Rouge complex. And Hayden, you know what? It's all smiles, even with the kind of race he's had. He's having a great time out there. And I'm glad, as far as I can see, everyone else enjoying it as well. If this becomes a weekly thing, this will be awesome. I see one of you say, we see you. Thank you. It's been a delightful spectacle so far.
Has indeed. Looking the part as well, Hayden, we have to say. Interesting battle at the top of the hypercar class with El Tacaman versus Razin. Razin has just started to move ahead in the energy terms, as that is a Cadillac looping it round coming through the bus stop. I think that is Austrian Andy just facing the wrong direction. Yes, Vince actually in the Aston Martin did a very good job to avoid the backwards hypercar of the Cadillac. 16th place at the moment now for Austrian Andy after that little blunder. But just to return to the Razin El Tacaman battle, Razin has just started to get a bit of an advantage on the energy side, so maybe just backing off a little bit more, being a little bit more efficient as well with his fuel saving. That could maybe extend his stint by a further lap. That is the target. The undercut doesn't necessarily work here because you're pitting, you're refueling, much heavier car, and of course the tyres are going to be ice cold because they come out at ambient temperature. No tyre blankets here.
That's what TK said, of course, when we had the privilege to interview him. The fact that those new tyres, you really have to get through that first phase. Work the magic, work the energy into them, because otherwise it does fall apart very, very quickly indeed. The lean green machine closing on into El Taco Man. Within a second they go. Just stamp on the anchors and hope it sticks into the bus stop chicane, which it absolutely does, as, well, crossing the pit lane line.
Jakey.
Not entirely, it's Jakey, in fact. There they are, in P6. Whether that was a routine pit stop or not, I don't know. They're about half battery, so I think just a mistake for Mr. Jakey Dent, but he's still well on his way. Currently sits in P6 in the LMGT3 class.
And I wonder if that was a mistake going through Rouge and Radion, because that Mercedes, especially over the curbs, very, very stiff. Reacts badly to bumps. Difficult to drive in that scenario. Dangling those down the inside into the bus stop we go. This is the battle between Benjamin Daly, who has forced his way up into 9th place, dispossesses, or 8th place I should say, dispossesses Sparks, and now Punju right in the thick of the battle as well. There's Reska Kyoso. Alex can't drive. Dirk Chocolate in this fight also. Punju to the inside, just throwing it down the inside goes Kyoso, taps the back of Sparks, then gets a bump from behind from Alice Can't Drive, and Punju with an excellent run out of La Source is now going to take 8th place off the hands of Daly.
Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 cars, because Dirk Chocolate's back in the action as well. All nose to tail. This is absolutely scintillating stuff. As Tim Marduk just sat in behind, of course, made the mistake into La Source. He has the slipstream now, though. How brave and confident is he feeling? Sparks with a bucket of popcorn in case this cinematic experience reaches boiling point. Tiamat Marduk has just gone round the outside at Lacom, holding it narrow, though. There. In that's the Toyota, I think, as wide goes the Ferrari. Dirk Chocolate's picked the pocket of Reska Kyoto. Alex Can't Drive, shows the nose to the outside. This is a sensational scrap. Or P8 downwards. Wonderful. Then basically nose to tail all the way through. What action we are seeing as they head down towards Pouon corner. Alex Can't Drive just defending the inside. No real opportunity into there. And we can all just simmer down a little bit now.
Got to commend Sparks, was getting it from all angles there. Yes, lost a couple of places, one to Ben Daly, one to Punju as well, but still nestled inside the top 10, although I'm not sure how much longer that's going to last for, although Alex Can't Drive wide there through the Fania chicane. That brings Dirk Chocolate, brings Reska Kyoso back into the fight. Also, Reska had a little think about it down the inside into Stavolo corner. Further forward, this is Fabio battling away with Lenz the Goat. Lenz braver under brakes into the bus stop. Fabio trying to make the cutback work. It's Scarlet versus the bright yellow, the away kit almost of the Ferrari. Great run out of the bus stop for Fabio. This will try and take him up into 6th place. Highest that he's been so far. It's going to have to be the long way round into La Source, but a bit of a Jinkova locking the rears under braking. I wonder if he tapped the grass. He certainly whacked the barrier as he pirouetted down the main straight. And that is going to be some significant damage, you would imagine, for our Portuguese maestro.
Arcs with issues as well. There they are. They're turned round. In fact, never mind. Is that also Dirk Chocolate? has had yet another hindrance to the start of this endurance race. It still very much is the start. Still plenty of time. Don't sound the alarm bells. Don't sound panic stations just yet, because there's still a long, long way to go. Just under 2 hours of action we have to decide who wins in both classes. The inaugural event, as well, licking his wounds very much so. That is, I believe, I'm trying to figure out who it is.
Kyoso. Yeah, Kyoso just appearing from Narnia there was obviously taking a very interesting run through La Source. I wonder if there was a spin or maybe just completely missed the braking zone. But suddenly this big fight has fanned out entirely. But after all of it, Rescue Kyoso and Dirt Chocolate are going to be fighting over the same piece of tarmac again. But they've got Tom Bina now at the head of this train from 12th down to 15th. But then they've got nearly 30 seconds of buffer back to Austrian Andy in the Cadillac in P16. Then you've got the stragglers further back. Hayden Gardis, who picked up a drive-through penalty on the opening lap. And Kareem 17, former Creator Series F1 champion, let's not forget, has had his dramas and difficulties so far. This is Kyoso just braking on the grass. When you haven't got any anti-lock brakes, that is what can happen. And we try the reverse entry drift into La Source, which isn't the most successful way of approaching it.
Very fortunately for him, though, did not get spat out in the same direction that Fabio was, and so can carry on his merry way, albeit with vigorous flat spots. That's been a characteristic, as Razin Chai has closed right in to El Taco Man. Again, the ebb and flow, the thrill of the hunt, so much easier when you have a target locked on to the person in front of you than to defend from that particular assailant. As through La Source they go, half a second the gap as they descend down towards Eau Rouge. The car will compress as they then ascend up through Radion Corner, abuse the curbs as much as you can. We'll see that straight line speed that the Lambo has on this fixed setup, and then we'll see the body language of it, should he decide to be close enough to make a move. The Peugeot ever so slippery, though, nowhere near under threat as they head into the Lecom chicane. Punju's had another issue, I think only briefly, though, as his name just turns transparent for a moment. Carries on his merry way, still interlocked in combat with Tiamat Marduk. Here's a little replay. See what on earth kind of conundrum he might have had. The answer is nothing at all. That is interesting. Cheers, leaderboard. But Razin trying to close. Never mind, it was Tiamat Marduk that went round. So, in fact, completely the opposite. Ben's name not going transparent. Thank God there was something that happened, because otherwise I would have had a visible breakdown. Not that you can see me. But there you go. They carry on their merry way. And now the battle will continue towards Lecom.
And I wonder if that maybe saved Punji, because he was all over the sausage curves going through the second part of the bus stop. Carlet very unstable. We now try to the inside of the Lecom chicane, but it's Ben who's braver under brake, slams the anchors on better and to a little bit more confidence maybe compared to the Cadillac of Punji behind, but they're 17.5 seconds off the back of Fabio in front of them, so got a lot of free real estate to try and drive into. Punji a little bit tentative there, maybe just remembering what happened 60 seconds or so ago when Ben dropped it directly in front of him. Doesn't want to stay too close, following that Ferrari into the braking zone. Further down, Rescue Kyoso is still battling away with Dirt Chocolate. They've managed to get ahead of the Cadillac of Austrian Andy. And that just gives them now the battle for 13th and 14th, with Tom Bina very much in that fight as well, still ahead of the pair of them. And then Sparks, who's just managed to give himself a little bit of breathing space after getting it from all angles for a couple of laps, 3.5 seconds up the road.
Meanwhile, in GT3, Scotty Designs, by the way, is all over the back of Fantasy F1 in the Valentino Rossi BMW, adorning those colours. Not that you need to call a doctor, because this race never needed resuscitating. It's just been flat out fun all the way through, and it's only been basically half an hour, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable stuff. As into the bus stop chicane they go. Scotty shows the nose to the inside, just to show that he's there, more so than trying to make a move. Loom large in the mirrors as much as possible. That will come with a bit of a compromise. You'll lose a little bit of time, but the more pressure you can put on your opponent in front, you can actually coax them into that mistake. That's exactly what the Ford is hoping for here.
I think TK may have had another drama in the pink bikini, unfortunately for Commentary Corner. Still down in last place. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see Chappers, had some game issues that were going on, so disappointingly, we didn't get to see the Porsche out on circuit, but I'm sure we will see Chappers again. This is TK in the Lamborghini coming through the Lecom chicane up through Malmedy. Are we going to have a trip into the gravel? Thought we were heading that way before we moved back over, and now we're just sort of floating on air, and we've appeared back in the pit lane, and now it's the Ardennes Forest.
It's a geographical nightmare for TK, ladies and gentlemen.
No wonder he's struggling when he's teleporting all over the circle like that.
TK intertwined with trees. It's little wonder why he's in P10, bless him. But round the outside of 1, 2 cars goes Rasin Chai. I always have my heart in my mouth when it comes to overtaking the GT3 cars. I think as a real-world example, it was Alan McNish. Can't remember what year it was. I think it was the mid-2010s or so. But where he overtook a lapped car, a slower car. He made contact, and it was an absolutely almighty accident that he had. Of course, in the sim world, no real threat, of course, of, well, burdening the body of the driver at the wheel. But even so, it's an accident you do not want to be a part of.
We can't, though, say no risk of broken bones or dislocated bones. We have to
true.
avert our attention to that guy Vince on that one, and he will vouch that you can always be put at risk even when you're sim racing, everybody. Let's not take that for granted, as we saw there a few minutes ago. Like you said, the leaders of the hypercar class lapping the leaders of the GT3 class. Still F1 Alex and Ryan 83 nose to tell, as they have been for the 40 or so minutes that we've had so far, ticking under the 2 hours remaining 10 minutes or so ago. Still a hell of a long way to go with El Tacaman and Razin still leading the charge out front. And the battery situation is interesting. Razin's got about 1% of charge and energy more now over El Tacaman. If he continues to maybe just lift and coast that little bit more, can he get that extra percentage to give himself a lap's overcut and maybe get himself some track position and a leg up going into the second stint? That's a fascinating one that we will definitely need to keep an eye on.
Indeed we shall. News as well, Skysy's back into P3 and all of this is past Davide for P3 in this race. Fabio is catching back up to Lenz de Go, despite the fact he has that damage on the front of his car, which is rather unbelievable. We are highlighting the Peugeot, the French connection, French driver, French machine, all working in scintillating synergy as they head down towards Pouhon Corner. At the front of the GT3 crew, though, it's still F1 Alex and Ryan 83. A cut above the rest in a class of their own, and they are still going hammer and tong during this first stint. They're on similar battery as well, playing a similar strategic game at the moment. So, interesting to see what will happen as round the outside goes piece of lap traffic. That is, I believe, 5th place Toyota. That is Ben Law going through. And so, these two can once again go out into cutthroat combat. It's absolutely excellent to see as we are about to breach the 1 hour 50 remaining mark.
And these two have got an energy advantage over Vince behind them as well. Vince in the low 30 percentages, Alex in the 32s, Ryan in the 33s. Ryan just dipping now into the 32s as Vince drops into the 29. So that could be Vince a lap short compared to this duo, which will just extend the margin that he needs to try and make up in the next stint. Ryan has shown absolutely no interest in taking the lead in class away from F1 Alex as yet. Both of them running slightly wide there through Blanchimont as they tried to make way for the Ferrari hypercar that charges on through. And again, we get ever so close into the brake zone, almost just tapping, having a dalliance with the diffuser through both parts of the bus stop there as the camera has a big wobble there. It wasn't an earthquake, it was just the vibrations over the curbs through the bus stop that just puts the Lexus out of balance ever so slightly.
A couple of cars go on through. We are a team christened onto the back of the BMW ahead. Nothing team about this, ladies and gentlemen. No driver swaps. All of these drivers have to be on full focus for the next hour and 49 minutes. As again, there goes another Ferrari. That's Infratic, who's reduced the gap to Lenz de Go after all of the chaos he's had to endure at La Source not but a few laps ago. He's catching back up. Now the gap below 3.5 seconds as he gets a cheeky wave to the pink Borghini as they head down the Kemmel Straight. Sandwiched in between them, that's Hayden Gullis in that absolutely beautiful Aston Martin Valkyrie. Has not gone all his way, got a drive-through penalty very early on. However, if there was ever any driver that has had complete, well, for no lack of a better term, it's been an absolute shocker for Mr. Kareem 70. Had the pit stop due to damage and then got that penalty for speeding in the pit lane, finds himself a lap down. But there's still plenty of time. Again, no need to raise the alarm. Yes, he's quite a way behind, but there's still something you can prize away from this, even if it is just that learning. As round the outside goes Benjamin Daly. In fact, he's under pressure from Alex Can't Drive. So Punju got the job done. The Porsche has been gradually eating away at the margin. And now we have another spicy contest on our hands.
We do indeed. And yeah, your heart has to go out to Kareem 70. Both of us are definitely a big fan, but just to make the evidence of his struggles quite clear, he is currently, I think, 8th in class in the GT3s, which is not good news considering it was actually going pretty well. Got himself up inside the top 10, but then just a litany of drama and penalty and damage that has just pulled him back, and it has snowballed, and it can so easily do that when not all of it is down to your own doing as well. So unfortunate stuff there for Cream. Yes, there's still a long, long way to go, an hour and 45 almost, but got a lot of time to try and make up. Needs to try and hope for something to happen in front, but this is also a good opportunity for him to learn the car, because here's one of those drivers in the hypercar class in particular that doesn't necessarily have the experience of someone like El Tacoman, someone like Raz, and somebody like Skyzy as well, your top three that are very, very acquainted. They know exactly what these cars are going to do. Kareem, this is going to be a bit of a learning curve for himself, but with the speed and the acclimatization that he's shown on previous games, as that is a double lockup for two drivers there on the run down into the bus stop. That is Ben making a mess of it. That is Punji making an even bigger mess of it in front. And that could be 2 for 1, as Alex Can't Drive says, thank you very much. I'm going to lap one of those up. I'm going to try and pick up 2 places there with 2 blunders in front of me. 2 freebies. Can we make it work? It's Ben Braver into last source. We try the cut back in the Porsche. Really good drive coming out of turn 1. Ben, is he going to get caught short behind the Aston Martin of Vince? It is the Porsche just getting a leg up on the Ferrari. Both of them are going to try and fly past Vince. That could be a little bit of a Code Brown moment, but it is Alex Can't Drive through up into 8th place after those twin mistakes, but the battle still doesn't look to be dying down.
No, indeed. Benjamin Daly hunkered up into that slipstream, although not really making an impression, still have to navigate the lap traffic. That's what he's probably banking on, the fact that the momentum will swing his way as through on Ryan L83 goes Alex Can't Drive. Tiamat Marduk will follow suit, and we'll have a decent little run towards Malmedy corner. Not decent enough though. In fact, Punji with the greatest run of all. The slingshot that you get, even if you do make a mistake, yes, they'll be having to deal with the flat spots, but you can so easily regain that momentum as again sending it down the inside. Goes Tiamat Marduk. Again, GT3s know the faster cars are arriving. Take caution. The gap has extended, though, at the top of the GT3 class, just a little bit as a result, though. But 3 hypercars, nose to tail, giving a cheeky wave and passerby to the pink bikini. And it will be, well, it's just scintillating battling once again. They follow so incredibly closely. And before you all say it, Ben Daly's making clean moves. Yes, don't scratch your eyes. It is really happening, ladies and gentlemen.
Has made a couple of mistakes, so let's just bump back down to reality there. Kidding, of course, but has actually done a really good job considering, like Cream, he's one of the drivers that doesn't necessarily have the utmost experience in these cars. You could just see how quickly certain drivers can adapt to a brand new formula, a brand new driving style, and some drivers just take a little bit more time to get up to speed. And maybe the needs and the desires of this particular car class just suit Tiamat Marduk a little bit better than Cream 17. Ben, we know, is a very smooth driver with his inputs. Cream a little bit more aggressive. That does take a little bit of time just to get up to speed and learn what the inputs that you desire are. This is Punji trying to push Ben down a further spot. Good run out of the bus stop chicane. The Cadillac powering down into La Source. Does Ben keep his foot in it, keep his nose in it down the inside into turn 1? Much braver under braking. Once again, we've seen Punji a little bit tentative into the braking though, but that does give him a nice cut back out of La Source. This could be deja vu for Ben. We saw the Porsche Alex Can't Drive pull this move on the previous lap. Now gets his pocket picked again, this time by the Cadillac. We've got a yellow flag out again. That is for Concept 7 in the Corvette, I believe, in the middle set to having a bit of a malady going on.
Yeah, Concept 7 off once again, and here's the replay of how it happened towards that second chicane, sweeping before you get to the various Stabilo corners, and again, just that inertia as you try and throw the car in, the tyres start to complain. The physics of the game do not play kindly to you whatsoever. That's probably what a lot of them are struggling with. As Tom Biener has peeled into the pit lane. Recharge of the battery. There he is in pit row. Recharge of the battery. We'll maybe soon find out. In fact, we'll be able to tell from the pace once he gets up to speed whether those are new tyres. We imagine that they will be. But the number 50 Ferrari turns into one of the very first hypercars to actually serve a proper pit stop.
Yeah, they have got a limited number of tyres that they can use in qualifying and the race, but we shouldn't be getting through all of them unless we see a lot of pit stops and the energy really, really getting drained. Still, Razin has about a percentage of energy in hand over El Tacoman in front. That doesn't quite equate to a full lap yet. Both of them in the mid-teens as things stand, as Tom Biener will emerge out of the elongated pit lane, of course, that will take you all the way up through Eau Rouge and Radion, admittedly at a slightly sedate pace, as you have to wait an absolute age before you could take the limiter off. Infratic still taking chunks of time out of Lenz the Goat, as those two Ferraris, you would imagine, are going to be fighting over the same piece of tarmac once again. And Fabio doing a really, really good job, considering he must have some damage, some significant damage as well. That was a big whack into the barrier, front and rear on the run down into La Source after that little bit of contact and that little bit of just a mistake as well, braking on the grass that sent him pirouetting into the wall. The pace is still really strong in the low 204s.
It is indeed. well, he's dipped into the grass again, so he's clearly not listening to us blabber on about his antics into lawn mowing. But the Ferrari in the away kit, chasing down the Ferrari in the home kit, but it's still going to be fixture number 2 between those two drivers, because Infratic is very much on his way. Again, the lead of Hypercars ebbing and flowing, though. Razin's caught right up to El Taco Man once again in the Lamborghini. So once again, Taco Man has a few laps where it all goes his way. Then suddenly, during the lap, possibly due to a GT3 car, but during the lap, Razin's able to catch right back up once again. Taco Man not having it all his own way out there.
Absolutely not. And you could see the back of that Peugeot, a little bit reluctant to plant the power down coming out of the second part of Stavolo. Just a little bit of a tail snap, but some good straight line speed. Austrian Andy, see the yellow flags out for him there. This is just up to where we're approaching, so keep your eyes very much open as we go through the bus stop. There, I believe, is the car caught up, the Cadillac that's just had a bit of a blunder going through the bus stop, but still El Tacman out in front. 204 flat for Taco Man, 204 flat for Razin just behind, but it's still the Lamborghini with that energy advantage. Skyzy half a second quicker though on the previous lap. Davide as well, 0.3 of a second quicker. We're not quite at the point of converging. Top 4 still covered by less than 10 seconds. Then you've got a big gap back to Ben Law, who is being caught by those two lead Ferraris of Lenz Ago and Infratic.
Great also, by the way, at this point, great to see so many of you engaging with our first ever dipping of our toes into Le Mans Ultimate. First ever race, the 2.4 hours of Spa-Francorchamps. Like I say, great to see so many of you engaging with the action. Please feel free to drop a follow or subscribe if you're on a YouTube, on whatever internet you are on. Welcome to the party. This is what you might come to expect. Rasin Chai chasing down Taco Man at the hour and 40 remaining mark. Then it's Skyzy in third, Davide in fourth. Once again, the Toyota of Ben Law still in that 5th place position, just quietly going about it. But again, the two old adversaries, the two Italian stallions clash. Home versus away. Infratic is right on the back of Lenz the Goat once again.
A little bit unstable there, though. Going through the Lake Com chicane, back of the car stepping out. That can happen, of course, with the damage. And the damage is something that you do just need to be aware of what can happen, because the oil and the water temperatures are simulated on this game. 130 degrees Celsius for the oil. That's the maximum you really want to get to. Water temperature, 110. What happens after that, though, with the damage that can block the radiators, crucially, especially at the front, you will start seeing that overheating. So you need to try and keep it in check, because, of course, if we are seeing overheating of the oil and the water temperatures, you're going to start smoking, and eventually that's going to result in explosions. So you don't necessarily want to go down that path.
No, quite right. And to allude to a point you said as well, for a lot of these drivers dipping their toes for the first time into Le Mans Ultimate, some have done iRacing as well. In the case of Tiamat Marnik, he's had a couple of forays into that particular realm. But it's a trial by fire compared to the F1 game, where you can jump on, you do have that surplus of grip. Rasin Chai takes the fastest lap of the entire race. So he's keeping Taco Man very honest, a 203.072. The Lamborghini not letting it go just yet. Rasin, of course, with a wealth of experience on Le Mans Ultimate, and it's paying off in spades. But if you don't have that prior knowledge, if this is your first opportunity to really get your teeth sank in to this wonderful sim racing experience, then you really do have to have your wits about you, don't you?
Absolutely. And it wasn't exactly like El Tacaman was slow on the previous lap, because he did a 203.1. Fabio through as well, up into 6th place, back up into 6th place. I think he was handed that one a freebie. But Lenz the Goat making a mistake down into the bus stop, 207 for the now second Ferrari in the hypercar class. But they've got 25 seconds of margin over Alex Can't Drive. Austrian Andy, I think, has looped it round again in the Cadillac, struggling. These are the two Ferraris that were dueling. This is what happened at the end of the previous lap. It was Fabio tucked right up underneath the rear wing of Lenz the Goat. Do we just get our braking slightly wrong? We're caught up behind the McLaren. I think that's Nick Flies. Fabio sends it to the inside and does make his way through and picks the pocket there, really, of Lenz the Goat, who had a little bit of time in hand in the middle sector. The gap was still hovering around about a second, so must have been a mistake around there somewhere.
Thanks to Tango. Lenz the Goat's not done yet, though, in towards the right-hander of Malmedy. He's absolutely smashed it. Great work from Lenz the Goat to just have that retaliation. Visit the retaliation station, take back P6. These two interlaced in combat, even with the damage to Fabio's car, and we would not have it any other way. Punju's on his way as well. Alex Can't Drive has got the Cadillac right on his 6. as they head through their various complex of the track. In fact, there they are. Punju down the inside at the same corner. Carbon copy. We've seen this script before. A touch of deja vu never goes amiss. The Cadillac through into P8. Meanwhile, Energy Talk as they pass the lone Ford of Scotty Designs, by the way. Energy Talk is that it's low for a lot of hypercars, ladies and gentlemen. Taco Man under 5%, Razin a little bit higher on 6% worth of battery. Same for SkyZ. In fact, the Toyota of Ben Lloyd in one of the best positions, in fact, the best position out of the top 5. But it's going to start to get busy in a matter of moments' time in pit row as Punju is locked up behind, well, the Mercedes of Jakey.
This is getting really, really tight. This is where the drivers just have to be careful. Jakey staying predictable in that Mercedes on the racing line at the inside of Stavolo as one by one, the hypercars all file around the outside as we continue this battle that's been going on for quite some time now. Punju, Alex can't drive, Tim McMardick, Dirt Chocolate a further 3.5 seconds back down the road, I should say. Then it's Rescacchioso, then a big gap. Sparks has been in the pits. Tombina has been in the pits as well. That is why they've dropped off the back of this group. That is going to come back to hurt them later on because they might find themselves having to do one more pit stop than the drivers that are currently nestled just inside the top 10. As we see Jakey just trying to manhandle that Mercedes through the bus stop. Can be a little bit stiff, as I've said before, which makes it feel a little bit lazy on turn, especially a lot of these front-engine GT3 cars can feel really recalcitrant, very lazy to try and get the front of the car to bite. But once they do, and once you do get the front of the car to behave as you want, they are so nice to drive, so flowing, so rhythmical, especially around a circuit like this.
Fabio has been released, ladies and gentlemen, but only because Lens the Goat is into the pit lane to recharge the virtual energy, to slap some presumably fresh tyres onto that Ferrari hypercar. Peels out of the box and away he will go in a matter of moments time. We've now got, well, Davide on 2% worth of battery. No real surprise that Taco Man also has peeled into the pit lane. Had to do so, has no battery whatsoever. Never mind, I can't quite see the telemetry right. I'm an idiot. He's still out there at the moment, but they're basically on no battery whatsoever. Lens to go, again, just have to take it so gingerly through the pit lane. It's a brief moment of respite and relaxation until they have to go for full throttle action once again. There are the two, though. There you go, right on cue to save my bacon. El Taco Man, Rasin Chai peel into the pit lane for their first stop of the evening. Same for Davide, same for SkyZ as the Lamborghini crew get to work, as do the various BMW and Peugeot crews as well. It's all going to kick off now.
And weren't quite able to steal another lap, perhaps, from the drives around. It was actually Davide in the BMW that had significantly less energy compared to the three that were in front. Definitely had to come in this lap. You don't want to dice it. You don't want to pick up a penalty, of course, as well for burning through more than you're allowed to with the virtual energy. You can't get a drive through that. Obviously, there's the risk of running out of fuel as well, which would be described as sub-optimal. We can see the Cadillac, I think that is there, or no, maybe the Ferrari of Infratic peeling into the pits, just having to find the smallest of gaps to work around. I believe that's the Toyota of Ben Law to get into the box.
They all just wait very patiently indeed, as there goes the Peugeot. Peels out of pit row. In fact, maybe a slightly shorter stop for SkyZ, who is, I think, going to jump Razin and might well jump Taco Man. Contact in the pit lane as Taco Man is released into the path of SkyZ. That will send the Peugeot round off kilter. Disaster for our race leader since lap number 1. And Taco Man, I mean, the exasperation is all too clear to see. What on earth has happened there? With an hour and a half to go, though, there is still a long, long script to unravel. Behind them, there's that guy Vince peeling out of the pit lane. Jakey and Scotty Designs, by the way, also in for the GT3 class. Drama in the pit lane, though. You don't get this in F1 Creator Series.
No, you don't. And unfortunate to be spun around, of course, with that contact. But unless you didn't see SkyZ piling down the pit lane, a little bit of a self-inflicted error there. Master of your own downfall, handing a place back over to Rasenchai, handing one now over to the Peugeot. Very quick turnaround for SkyZ. He blasts up the hill through Rouge and Radion, dispossesses the Lamborghini, dispossesses the other Peugeot as well. It's still Peugeot from Lambo from Peugeot, but the two French connection, they have swapped places. Takaman maybe with some damage as well, and SkyZ with an incredible run through the pit lane phase. 3.5 seconds he's got over Razin now.
Taco Man, livery adorning the stars and the stripes, was glistening in the first stint of this race. Oh, how quickly it has unraveled. No real surprise. All the leaders have filled their battery up to the absolute maximum. My only guess is that SkyZ didn't change tyres. That's my only guess, because he was so much quicker out of the box, despite being in that much later. Whereas Razin and also Taco Man, presumably, have gone on to those newer tyres. You're seeing right now, they are plummeting. Skyzy has the tyres. They're all on that same compound of tyre, but Skyzy absolutely flying out there in comparison to Razin and Taco Man, who might well have gone onto that new rubber, and they'll have to pay the price during these first few laps.
And this is what you need to remember. The scrub tyres will warm up fast, and because there's no tyre blankets, these guys on the brand new rubber, it's going to take an absolute age to get these tyres up to temperature. And this is going to feel like a really horrible lap for Raz and for Takaman as Skyzy extends the lead to over 12 seconds now. As you can see there, Takaman getting a little bit loosey-goosey coming out of the Fanier chicane. The entire complexion of this race, in particular in the hypercar class, has completely been flipped on its head as the two leaders in the GT3s also into the pit lane. Ryan from Alex, and you'd imagine Vince, who came in on the previous lap, is not going to find himself getting the jump on them. Vince not quite able to save as much fuel, as much energy as the two leaders in that class.
See what tyres they go onto as well, whether they go on to new tyres, whether it's scrub tyres for Ryan L83 and F1 Alex, as Benjamin Daly might well have had a little bit of a problem. His name goes transparent. He's lost a place to Dirk Chocolate. In fact, they're just switching hands left, right and centre for P8 on the road. Looks like the Ferrari has carried on his merry way and battle can continue. That guy Vince onto the pit straight. And out of La Source they will go. Still a little bit of pit lane for Ryan L83 and F1 Alex to traverse, but out onto the Eau Rouge and Radion complex they go. Ryan L83 already out of the pit lane. F1 Alex also just able to get the limiter off. Have to be ever so careful to keep it within the boundaries, but they should be well clear of that guy Vince. And it looks like, at least for the time being, that they will be.
So two new leaders in the hypercar. Skyzy leading the way, 16 seconds, the gap between himself and Razzie now. That is the difference, clearly, between getting the scrub tyres on up to temperature and fired up quickly, and the brand new rubber that's taking an absolute age to get up to temperature. Whether that will flip-flop later on in the race, we'll have to wait and see. Just over an hour and a half to go, 90 minutes left on the clock, as Ryan L83 now 5 seconds clear of F1 Alex, as that has flipped around as well. And you get the impression that it's a similar kind of situation. Ryan has kept the same set of tyres on. Alex has gone for a brand new set. That's understandable because, as we've said a couple of times, the BMW churns through its rear tyres in particular, really struggles with thermal degradation at the back of that Beamer. That is why he's going to have to be a little bit more punchy and a little bit more conservative maybe with his tyre strategies, and that will explain that 6-second gap that's opened up.
Alex, you can see, weaving to try and get some energy into the tyres. Ryan L83 absolutely flying. Vince also flying figuratively because he's had time to get those tyres into the operating window. But just to highlight the struggles that Razin and El Taco Man were having, Skyzy gained 5 seconds alone to Razin in that middle sector, as there a little bit of a wiggle again from F1 Alex, just to say a little bit of hello, as we have a little bit of a replay. This is the conundrum that Tiamat Marduk faced as he heads through the chicane. As you can see, the Lefania chicane, in fact, and oh dear, massive contact with the barrier on the right-hand side, and there could well be steering damage for that Ferrari, should the angle have been slightly adverse.
Tried to catch the slide, but that just sent him piling into the wall on the left-hand side. Dirk, unfortunate there to come across Ben at exactly the most inopportune moment you could think of, coming down into Stavolo. A little bit of rubbing, maybe a little bit of a contact between the Ferrari and the Toyota, but it is Ben that has 8th place still within his grasp, ahead of the Toyota of Dirk. And a couple of seconds up the road is Fabio, who has, of course, pitted so far, made his first stop. Ben and Dirk coming a little bit later, so they have actually gained a little bit on Fabio, interestingly.
Yes, well, I'm looking at the battery situation, and we've got Tiamat Marduk on about 3/4 worth of battery. Dirk Chocolate with significantly more virtual energy at his disposal, and again, wide goes Tiamat Marduk, feeling the after effects, because he's going to have vigorous flat spots on those tyres as well. Even if it was only a tiny partial slide over the tarmac before he made the gravel, those flat spots are no joke. It hinders so much, whether that's the turning as a massive wiggle through Eau Rouge and Radion. The Toyota looking very lively indeed, but it will all calm down. It will all settle and simmer in as into the slipstream, out of the slipstream, ahead, through, clear goes Dirk Chocolate. A marvellous creation, a very sweet treat indeed, and that will be P8 on the road.
a very lovely job to get himself a free spot there. You can see Hayden in the Valkyrie just in front. The flashing going on to tell Hayden, get the hell out of my way on the braking down into Rivage. You could just see, I think that was Fabio just up the road, who's 23 seconds off the back of Lenz Goat. So this is where we're seeing, we can't see it on our telemetry, but we're definitely seeing that some drivers have changed tyres, and the ones that have got a significant disadvantage on the warm-up phase. Fabio lost 21 seconds to Lenz the Goat in the pit stop phase, and will now find himself potentially battling with the Toyota and the other Ferrari of Tim McMurdoch if he still hasn't got the energy in those tyres yet.
On board then with the chaser. That is Tim McMurdoch trying to have a look at Dirk Chocolate, albeit dipping a tyre into the sandbox. They've got the car of that guy Vince just up ahead, 3.5 seconds between himself and his next closest challenger, Mr. F1 Alex, but will do well to keep on the racing line. Spots the Ferrari racing on through, and so through goes said racehorse. The Australian sensation carries on his merry way, still close and quartered with Dirk Chocolate. Razin Chai's not liking the new tyres whatsoever. Taco Man has already reduced the deficit to underneath a second. The gap's still extending out front. Well, actually, Razin was just under a tenth quicker on the previous lap, but Taco Man has got those tyres firmly ignited into life and is hounding the Lamborghini as they head through into the right-hander. That's of Bruxelles, in fact, and not of Malmedy. I do apologise. I'll correct my mistake. Luckily, I have had an hour and a half left to do it. But Razin not liking the new tyres at all, still losing time to Skyzy. Had that lap traffic in the way, but the new tyres are just complaining at the moment.
Peugeot's working really well, either firing up the scrub tyres or firing up the brand new tyres much better than the Lamborghini is. And these two still going to be fighting over the same piece of tarmac, but now 18 seconds away from the position that they were scrapping over for the first hour or so of this endurance race. Remember, 2.4 hours of Spa. That totals 144 minutes. And we're just approaching, maybe a few minutes away from that, 10 or so minutes away, the halfway phase with Skyzy, who was not really in the conversation in the first stint, now 17 seconds clear. As I think, he may have had some kind of drama because that time is coming down very, very quickly. Now 13 seconds. So he's lost 4 seconds somewhere. Make that 5 seconds as it drops into the 12s. Is that lap traffic that he's been balked behind, or is that a mistake from the Frenchman out in front?
Well, a bit of a mistake. Lost 5 or 6 seconds. Courtesy of, well, whatever the case it was, we might well get a replay on that in a matter of moments' time as the leaders complete their 29th lap of this race. As we have the Peugeot, this is Skyzy out in front. Gap now 12 seconds. Doesn't have the optimal grip, of course. Once those new tyres do ignite into life, they really do have that exponential difference in pace. Battery about the same, though, between all of this lead group. Razin Chai and Taco Man will be intertwined in combat once again as we very, very close to breaching the halfway mark, and wide goes Skyzy, having to dodge the McLaren. Not sure if it was Ricky 03 or Nick Flies, but either way, it is a McLaren misdemeanor. He did not want to be a part of. That'll be more time lost to Razin Chai and Mr. Taco Man. Another second, in fact. All that advantage he's built up is being nullified very quickly. He's got to clean it up.
And this is the double-edged sword, though. Brand new tyres versus the used tyres. Yes, he managed to fire up the scrub tyres much faster, but now paying the price being on that used rub. And there's something else we need to talk about with the firing up of the tyres. It's the difference between the LMH hypercars and the LMDH hypercars, because the LMH cars, they drive power, obviously, to the rear with the basher, but they also drive it to the front when you exceed a certain speed. And that effectively creates a four-wheel drive effect. Now, that will give you drive through the front. That will allow you to have a little bit more confidence through the high-speed corners, and of course you can work the tyres harder, whereas in the LMDHs, they always go to the rear axle, the battery, no matter what speed you're doing, which means everything's going through the rear, so you can't work the front tyres quite as hard. Now, if we look at what cars are what, the LMH cars, a Peugeot is an LMH car. We're seeing that. Razin in an LMDH car, wide as well through Corporal Frere, struggling a little bit with warm-up, struggling to keep his car within the white lines, dipping a couple into the gravel. We're going to go around the outside into Blanchemont, thread the needle with the McLaren of Nick Flies in the way. Tackerman has to go the absolute utmost long way round. Took a trip off the road, but won't care one jot about it because he has got ahead of the Lamborghini of Razin Chai and up into second position. That was brave, wasn't it?
That was extremely brave. Again, heart-in-mouth stuff as we see the replay. Watch the language of the green Lamborghini of Razin Chai. Up ahead, still complaining with the front grip, and into the gravel they go. And this is the real kicker. Read it on the front page, on the back page. This is absolutely cinematic as Taco Man avoids the McLaren, goes round the outside of Frasinchai. That is a double dose of blockbuster action in the space of a single corner. Absolutely brilliant stuff.
Nothing done wrong there by Nick Flies as well. Tried to keep out of the way by keeping all the way over to the right-hand side, but Taco-Man not taking any liberties there, clearly, as he chucked it around the outside off the road. And now putting a little bit of distance between himself and Raz, in the gap under 10 seconds. Skyzy struggling with the scrub tyres. They're taking chunks of time now out of the Frenchman in the lead. Got that gap to 18 seconds, been halved in the space of a couple of laps as the brand new tyres have finally fired up to temperature. We're seeing that difference, the double-edged sword that we spoke about. Don't change the tyres. Faster pit stop phase and a quicker warm-up phase. Do change the tyres. You lose about 20 seconds, but once they're working again, you are significantly faster.
Other news down the hypercard grid, and that is that Alex Can't Drive is all over the back of Breska Kyoso. I haven't said his name much recently, but he is laced in combat. Into last source they go. Looked like Breska Kyoso went wide, did in fact go wide. We have a yellow, that's Kareem 17 off at the Lefania chicane. Still looks like they're licking their wounds in the sandbox. Alex Can't Drive, meanwhile, is relishing the challenge. Firmly locked into the slipstream. A piece of black traffic up ahead. That is Ryan L83 in the Lexus, leading the LMGT3 class. It will be an all-out drag race towards the Lecom chicane. Closing in all the time is Alex Can't Drive, and he's going to have to settle for second best at the moment. But that's the thing. He now has the psychological advantage. He knows that there is a mistake in that Ferrari up ahead.
Psychological advantage, anybody? Don't know where I've heard that one before. You can see there, Ryan Lady 3 just in the background, still leading the GT3 class and still with a 5-second buffer over F1 Alex in the BMW. That gives a further 8 seconds back down the road, and then you've got the two McLarens. Riccio 3, Nick Flies, who we've seen having some adventures getting involved with the hypercars. Haven't spoken much about the McLaren 720S. That's because it's a very bog standard car. Very, very nice to drive. Very good beginner car. So drivable, so confidence inspiring. You can really attack it, but outright performance wise, definitely not the best in the field. Had quite a big nerf recently as well. Top end speed not particularly good, not as good on fuel, virtual energy or tyres either as it was maybe a couple of months ago. This is Nick Flies with Lenza Go in the Ferrari going through. Are we going to tap the back of the hypercar? I think there was a little bit of contact there, but thankfully both of them can keep it pointing in the right direction and continue to go about their business.
A little bit of a peck from Nick Flies in the McLaren.
Love
Ever
tap.
the gentleman, absolutely. Sharing the love at Spa-Francorchamps. Kareem 17, though, it's a nightmare he's descended into in this Le Mans Ultimate experience, into the pit lane once again, no doubt to repair the damage, but the Ferrari, crucially, will still be in this race. There is still so much that they can learn, even when it is not quite going their own way. As we see the replay, through Pouhon corner, goes the number 51 Ferrari. Winner, winner, chicken dinner in real life. However, that meal is about to turn from sweet to sour as through into the Lefania chicane they go. Could be a carbon copy of Ben's mistake. Almost is, but spat out the other way. Goes rear end first into the barrier. One could say he boshed the barrier even. Nice sponsor. But Kareem 17 licking their wounds very much so. It's another piece of adversity that they've had to face in this 2.4 hours of Spa.
Yeah, and it was almost identical to Tim and Malik, just the catching of the slide was even more aggressive than what we saw with Tim and Malik. That's why it fired Kareem into the wall earlier and further on the left-hand side. And again, we spoke about the differences, those two in particular in their driving style. Kareem a little bit more aggressive on his inputs, his steering inputs. Ben a little bit smoother, the Jenson Button style compared to the Fernando Alonso style, if you will. That probably contributing to where both of those drivers met the tyre barrier going through the first part of the Fagnier chicane. Gap out in front has eroded a little bit more, down to 7 seconds now, but Skyzy not quite leaking chunks and chunks of time like he was a couple of laps ago, with only 2 seconds slower on the previous lap compared to less than that, in fact, 1.5 seconds slower than El Tackman on the previous tour. Here is Riccio 3 in that McLaren, currently running in 4th place, doing a decent job, you have to say. He might be 29 seconds off the back of Dakovich, but as far as we can tell, has kept it absolutely clean and doing a fine job of just pounding around the circuit, getting the laps in and lapping fairly consistently at that as well.
Oh,
as we see it off through a Rouge in front, not sure who it was. That's a big accident into the tyre wall.
That looks like Safso. I see the yellow. It must be Safso who's gone off in a big, big way in the Cadillac. Well, here's the replay. In fact, we can see it. Instantaneous action. Through they go. Kart already complaining even more now. Shades of Kevin Magnussen 2016. If you know, you know. But a decent
another car
little biff. And look at the Ferrari. I think that's Kareem that might have been exiting the pit lane as well. So even more conundrums that the Mercurial Moroccan had to face in that moment. Cadillac driver is well on their way, though. Safso into P15.
Not ideal, that one. He had about 5 stabs at trying to get it. First of all, rotated through Eau Rouge and Radion, and then catch the slide from the over-rotation and the really harsh ride over the bumps with that Cadillac. Clearly did not enjoy the undulations and the bumps going up through Eau Rouge and Radion. As we're back with the stars and stripes of El Tacoman in the Peugeot, chasing after Les Bleus out in front of Skyzy, who has managed to stem the flow, but still losing time on those scrub tyres. 5 seconds now, the gap, and El Tacoman has really left Razin in his wake here. They were joined at the hip for the entirety of the first stint, but Razin unable just to keep that Peugeot in front at arm's length. The gap opening up to 2 seconds. We'll see what the delta is between the two Peugeots, leading the way on the previous lap. 1.8 seconds. El Tacoman takes out of Skyzy. A second Razin takes out of the Frenchman as well.
Say as well, a little bit of an unsung hero, and I know they're running bottom of LMGT3 at the moment, but unsung hero, TK, after all of the problems he's had, Jonathan Legard style, in this race so far, to be able to recover to where he is, now within 6 whole seconds of JP, after all of the adversity they have gone through, the pink bikini is going to roar on up the places, ladies and gentlemen. Do not scratch your eyes. It is happening in real time at the front of the GT3 class as well. But also on the opposite side of the spectrum, Alex is catching Ryan. So he might well have gone for new tyres. Had to deal with the pain initially. Gap is now down to 4.5 seconds. So we'll watch that ebb and flow carry on as well. The BMW driver is nowhere near down and out.
Absolutely not. And taking another half a second out in the first half of this lap as well. And like you said, TK, you could say he's just sneaking up to the back of the Mercedes of Jake Dent in that Silver Arrow that has had a few issues in the last couple of laps. I think a couple of adventures off the road. Was running just behind the two McLarens, batting away with Nick Fly, but has just dropped down into 8th. And now he's going to get into a scrap with a driver that he competed in, I believe it was 6 hours of COTA 24 hours ago. Might have been a little bit less than that, but yes, they were both pounding around in North America, and they've quickly blasted across the globe into Europe to Spa-Francorchamps, and they're going to continue, well, fighting over the same piece of time. They were technically in the same car, though, 24 hours ago.
Time is but a construct in Le Mans Ultimate. El Tacoman is absolutely flying, though. He's taking out nearly 2 seconds a lap on Skyzy up ahead. The new tyres might have all the pain, but it's just gain after that. Safso with another problem, this time at Malmedy. Much less, well, much less explosive, that's the one, than the previous era up through Radion. He carries on his merry way. Still in P15. Hayden Gullis could get some racing action, though, in that visceral and vicious Valkyrie. He's only a few tenths behind. The Safso goes off again, though, at the right-hander of Bushell. Off into the gravel he goes. And again, more time and positions being lost. Hayden Gullis into 15th place. Safso will regain the track. No physical damage, it looks like. Just emotional. Look at this, though. Tacoman is right on the back of Skyzy. That happened alarmingly quickly. Presumably another mistake that Skyzy's made on those scrub tyres. And, well, let battle commence.
Was it through La Source? We'll see the sector splits. Yes, lost 4 seconds in the first sector. So the margin that Skyzy had, it may have been shrinking, but it has evaporated within the space of 1 braking zone. But that is why through Malmedy there for El Tacoman, maybe just getting a little bit too greedy, as he can see the lead being handed to him very, very shortly. Skyzy didn't change his tyres in the first round of stops. Managed to pull out a 20-second advantage as Safso adventuring off into the runoff area. Again, great run out of No Name. Are we going to try it into Pouon? No, El Tacoman, remembering we've still got 1 hour and 13 minutes of this race left to go, approaching half distance now. I think we are reaching, as you like to say, the fulcrum point of the event. And still El Tacoman able to be patient. Don't want to be too patient, though, because Raz is not too far back, still only 2 seconds further down the road.
Quite right, it's pressure he could do without, as we see the BMW adorned in the Valentino Rossi livery. Again, no need to call the doctor. Fantasy F1. Just sprinkling some more magic as Skyzy peels to the inside. A decent run, though, for Tacoman, who peels to the right-hand side. Space left. by the Peugeot. It's an all-out French duel as they head through Blanchimont corner. We've seen this one before from Taco Man. Has to slot in behind though. Wide goes Skyzy. That will offer up the outside line at the bus stop chicane for Taco Man. Look how much later on the brakes the Peugeot can be. Ample space left between both drivers. New tyres or scrub tyres, but there's the contact. That means Razin's going to be invited into play, but Taco Man retakes the lead. Again, thrilling action at Spa-Francorchamps as we have indeed reached that fulcrum point of this race, and Razin is going to be right on Skyzy's case.
That was the personification of truly muscling your way through the bus stop chicane there. For El Taco Man, job still not done though, because Skyzy very much still in the thick of this, and Razin just connecting up to the back of the duo as well. They've got 20 seconds in hand over Davide in the BMW behind us, so it is an exclusive trio fighting for first, second and third on the road. And you wonder how quickly El Taco Man can check off up into the distance and leave not just Skies, but he'll be hoping Razin in his wake as well. How quickly can the Lamborghini work his way past the ailing Frenchman in the Peugeot, second place at the moment? All three of them almost identical again as they were in the first stint on Energy 2.
Through Bruxelles they go for what will be the 36th time in this 2.4 hours of Spa. Taco Man leads, Skyzy in second, Razin though right on his case, on board, right on the bumper view of the green machine. Absolutely thrilling sensation to be so close to the floor. It's like that go-kart position where you can just feel the sense of speed is, well, it's augmented, it's amplified immensely as they head through the Fania chicane. Again, Skyzy in complete control of the Peugeot, but he just does not have that surplus of grip. Not that Razin's got. As again, more lap traffic, I believe. Yes, it is. There is the Ford of Scotty Designs, by the way, who's having a great run in 6th place. So great stuff from him. Safso just peeling out of the pit box. Skyzy's seen this one before. Doesn't have nearly the same compromise as he had on the previous lap. But Razin's going to have that slingshot, not alongside at Blanchimont corner. So can judge the overtake into the bus stop chicane just a little bit more. They race on through the flat out left-hander. Razin so late on the brakes, down the inside, goes front in shy. That is beautiful. It's brave, it's bold, it's P2 for the Lamborghini. Came from a country mile back. That is a marvellous manoeuvre.
He was in Germany. They're here in the braking zone, came from his overdraft. I was wincing into the braking zone there. I thought he got it all wrong. First of all, well done for not locking up any of those tyres. Second of all, well done for getting the car stopped entirely. And third, well done for not slamming into the Peugeot on the outside. Supreme car control there from Razin into the bus stop. And now he can try and chase after El Taco Man in front. Hasn't quite been at the races in this second stint compared to the pace that he showed in comparison to the Peugeot that leads the way in the first stint of this. So it'll be interesting to see if Razin was maybe just holding something back. He has about 1% more now on energy over the two Peugeots that are now in front and behind. Wasn't able to turn that into a lapped overcut advantage in the first stint, but he's managed to get that difference and that divergence earlier on in this second stint, so maybe that could pay dividends as we come to the end and towards the final stint.
See the battery situation on the left-hand side of your screen. Leaders basically on the same numbers. Lens to Goat's got past Ben Law in all of this. So Lens to Goat having a great stint. Fabio could well be on his case as well in the nick of time. About 10 seconds between them, but he is gained, well, in fact, he's about the same time as Mr. Ben Law. Presumably mistake made some point during this stint, because in theory, Ben Law is catching Lens to Goat by about that 2 seconds a lap. Presuming he has the newer tyres. Yes, you can see the time evaporating on the left-hand side. Skyzy keeping close, though, to Razin Chine, not letting him escape, not letting him have it in all his own way, as we highlight some trees. Actually, we highlight Ben Law in the Toyota, who's well on his way. Gap now reducing to about 3 seconds. Was sitting pretty in P5 up until this point, but he's got to regain that momentum all over again.
In fairness, that green is the same colour as the vegetation surrounding the Ardennes forest that we are currently plunging through, with Skyzy still within a second, but this is going to be Ben Law caught up behind the BMW through the Fanier chicane. First part, second part, losing time. Blue flags are out. Remember, that doesn't necessarily mean get the hell out of the way, but he does eventually make it easy for Ben Law to come on through. 9 seconds clear of Fabio, who's in 7th place, who's managed to put 5 seconds over his old sparring partner in Dirt Chocolate. Ferrari versus Toyota, that could be an interesting battle. Then 2 drivers Well, one driver who's having a pretty lonely time is Sparks, not in a particularly strong hypercar, it has to be said. 16 seconds off the back of Dirk, 14 seconds clear of Ben Daly, very much in no man's land at the moment.
Ben's got some friends for company though. Reska Kioso and Alex can't drive. They are right in the thick of the action. This for 10th place on the road. And they've got Hayden Gullis in the Aston Martin up ahead as well. We can confirm that Ben Lott is in fact Newball by his gamer tag. So now we have the answer to that particular query. What we also will have the answer to is what on earth will unfold in this battle here. Through the right-hander and then through Stavolo they go. Depends on the surplus of grip, depends on the confidence in the car. Reska Kioso right on the back of Tiamat Marduk, pulls out of the slipstream. Could the Aston Martin of Hayden Gullis also provide a tiny bit of a boost as they head through Blanchimont corner? The inside line lends itself favourably to the 83 Ferrari. Reska Kioso makes up a place. What can Alex do though? Look how late on the brakes Ben Daly is despite everything. There's the pink bikini of TK, only a second behind. Jakey up ahead. So TK has friends in this race. That is wonderful. Skyzy's had a problem though. Yellow flag, as you can see on the left-hand side, dropped to 10 seconds behind Braslin. Not nearly as bad as the problem that the Ferrari is facing though. Round goes Ben Daly. Reska Kioso caught up in that as well. More drama at that source corner.
Looked like that was the drivers trying to pick their way through the traffic. Ben, I think it was, maybe moving over on Kioso as they tried to pass the pink bikini there. You can see Kioso in front. This is Ben. It's actually Dirk Chocolate that the contact's made with into the wall. Bang! A little bit of contact once and twice. Kioso, innocent bystander there as Ben tried to make his way through the traffic, but unfortunately didn't quite get it right. I said it was Dirk Chocolate. I believe it was actually Sparks, was it?
I think it was Alex can't drive.
Alex can't drive. I've had 3 attempts and got it wrong twice.
Well, Skyzy also got the Fania chicane wrong. This has been not a very happy hunting ground for a lot of our drivers. Again, basically a carbon copy of what Tiamat Marduk faced in terms of the direction, in terms of the way the car spewed out of the corner. Now 12.5 seconds back off the top two. Now holding pretty even stations in terms of lap times once again. The two that are a cut above the rest, once again, have risen to the occasion. As on board we go into Pouhon corner, trying to navigate past the Aston Martin of that guy Vince. Now 20 seconds behind. F1 Alex is flying in the GT3 car. 1.7 seconds behind Ryan L83 now. His charge has equalised just a little bit, but he is eating into that margin every single corner he gets.
That's going to be a battle royale, isn't it, for the remaining hour that we've got in this race. Ryan versus Alex. Vince has fallen away quite significantly, 21 seconds off the back of the BMW. So it is a 2-horse race in the GT3s and probably a 2-horse race in the hypercars, although it still looks like El Tacaman just has a small but not insignificant pace advantage over Razin as things stand. Punju the latest to have a bit of a drama somewhere as the yellow flag comes up in the middle sector. I wonder if that's at the Fania chicane again, or is that through Lake Com?
That's Punju. Looks to be Punju. Just having another bit of a moment in that Cadillac. Loads of the drivers struggling to get to grips with the way that Le Mans Ultimate works, struggling to adapt to the physics on the occasion as past the McLaren of Nick Flies, I believe that is. Goes Punju, brakes for the Lacombe chicane. It's routine like any other lap. The rear tyres, though, are not having any of it. They've seen enough. They're complaining. And in fact, the door opens so nicely for Nick Flies to just slide on through, as it did for that Ferrari car as well of lens to go, as Nebwell has caught right on up to that Ferrari. Tom Biener is now right on the back of Benjamin Daly, and Reska Kioso's joined the party. Run it back once again.
Into the action once again, and that was a prime case of rear tyre said no to the speed that was tried to be carried there through the Lake Com chicane, and Punju, not for the first time, finding himself pointing in the wrong direction. Gap opening up by a further half second wide through Malmedy. Goes Tom Biener, allows Reska Kioso to charge down the inside. Tom's going to try and keep his foot in it, but there is absolutely naught he can do about it. As through goes Reska Kioso back up into 12th place. Was at one stage running inside the top 7, Reska Kioso. Had a couple of adventures out there so far, but very experienced in multi-car racing, albeit that does most predominantly come on iRacing, winner this season in the multi-class iRacing scene, trying to find the smallest of gaps to maybe push Ben Daly down a further spot into what is becoming a very treacherous Fanier chicane down the inside. Ben, as we know with Tim Roddick, is not going to go down without a fight, gets the elbows out, Kieska up onto the curb coming out of the Fanier chicane, now has the inside into Stavolo and does dispossess the Australian ace, who might be bumped down a further spot because there's Tom Biener, former title rivals in the F1 Credit Series, back to season 3. Ben, just for the time being through Corporal Frere, keeps the second Ferrari at bay.
Just about fends off the Flying Dutchman. You can only stop the rampant resistance for so long, though, as they head into the bus stop chicane. How brave does Tom Biener want to be on the brakes? Wouldn't be surprised if Ben had damage from that skirmish at La Source, but a couple of laps ago. Does hold firm, though, remains in P12 on the road. In terms of battery, though, Benjamin Daly is low on said battery. Lower, well, not as low as Tom Biener, in fact. Tom about 5% below Mr. Tiamat Marduk. Rescue Kyoso on significantly more battery, so even better that he managed to get the move done. So now he can just get on the road and get on up it with no problems at all. We are over the halfway point here in the Creator Series for our first ever race on Le Mans Ultimate. We sincerely hope you are enjoying it. I think it's been an absolute blockbuster, but there are plenty of other series that can be thrown into the equation as well. I said it was worlds colliding as Taco Man and Rasin Chai crossed the line. Taco Man about half a second quicker as the margins stand. Excellent race from Taco Man, excellent also from Rasin Chai. But, Mr. Tom Wilkinson, you have been, well, endeared with the pleasure of commentating the iRacing side of Creator Series. So, just a minute or two or so, what you've seen develop in the iRacing Creator Series and what people can come to expect as we head on to that next part of the season.
It's very exciting, iRacing, has to be said. Multi-class carnage. If you like seeing multi-class races, we see the Ferrari go very, very deep there into the bus stop. And we also see another Ferrari off the road. I think that's Tiamat Marduk having a whoopsie going down into Rivage. It is Alex Can't Drive, I believe, dispossessing Rescue Kyoso, who took the long line, let's say, into the bus stop chicane. In fact, it was actually Lenz the Goat taking the long line into the bus stop, handing 5th place back over to Ben Law. But if you're interested in the iRacing every Thursday, of course, on the Creator Series channels, multi-class action, we've got Indy cars, we've got GT3 cars, and we've got Toyota GR86s as well. And that creates some interesting dynamics, I think it is fair to say. So make sure you jump on that one. But returning to the present, we need to look at the gap out in front that continues to extend. Half a second, El Tacaman was quicker than Razin on the previous tour. The left skies even dead, courtesy of that mistake that the Frenchman made a few laps ago through the Fanier chicane that has been fairly troublesome for a lot of drivers. But back into the GT3s, we're on board with the driver currently second in that, trying to work through the traffic, taking the wide line on the run up into Blanchimont. And for the first time, F1X can properly see Ryan 83 once again in this second stint has managed to slash a 5-second gap down to almost nothing, but just gets his braking a little bit wrong there into the bus stop, slightly deep, and that'll just push him a little bit further away from the Lexus once again.
Does have tyres to play with, though, and look, he's the golden retriever energy. He's still laughing. He's having a great time, even when there's mistakes on the line. That is the beauty. That is the satisfaction you have on Le Mans Ultimate. That's the tyre situation, ladies and gentlemen, as we are nearly crossing the hour mark. Taco Man goes fastest of the entire race, a 2:03.013. He's just getting stronger and stronger as this race develops. Give it 3 seconds and we will have, ladies and gentlemen, reached the hour mark. And with Taco Man, your leader, Rasin Chai in P2, Skyzy in P3, but Davide is all on his case now. Mistakes have hindered the progress of the French connection, but this French car in particular has no such problems. It is an automobile extraordinaire that El Taco Man is showing us today as he passes yet another piece of lap traffic.
And this is the gauntlet firmly thrown down. What have you got left, Raz? And you were able to cling onto the coattails of El Tacaman in the first stint. Can you do the same in the final hour of this race? Gap extending by around about half a second a lap at the moment as Tacaman works his way through the leaders in the GT3 class, past F1 Alex, past Ryan 83. Yellow flag came out for Tiamat Marduk as well, who went off through Rivage on the previous lap. I wonder if his tyres are absolutely cooked. Down in P13, is it going to be a mistake again? Tricky downhill braking zone into Rivage, off camber corner as well. Not on the grass as we go through to the rear tyres. Just let go. Yes, lazy spin. The rear tyres not complying with the desires of Tiamat Marduk as he finds himself getting acquainted with the gravel for the second time in as many laps.
That's the thing we've seen, isn't it? The fact it isn't those high-speed corners where you know you have the grippers. Again, a wibble and a wobble for Tiamat Marder because it just dips the toe into the gravel. There's the BMW of F1 Alex. Got Ryan LAZ3 firmly in his crosshairs, and he's recoiled and ready to strike should the time come. Going into the gravel probably isn't the optimal strategy though, but what do I know? That's why they put me in commentary corner for this race. But 58.5 minutes to go. It has been those medium speed corners where we've seen the drivers struggle, where you're at a bit of a balancing act, a tightrope as such between overall tyre grip and the car's aerodynamics. You just lose that aerodynamic advantage. You're praying for the tyres to stick. And that's ultimately where we're seeing a lot of those mistakes tonight.
It is. Endurance, obviously, names there, endurance race, but I think we're starting to feel the effects of that as well. Mental challenge. You're pushing flat out for a hell of a lot of this race. Physical challenge as well. Force feedback. These cars can feel heavy, especially the GT3s, but the hypercars as well. You're having to do a lot of micromanagement, whether that's the throttle inputs, the brake inputs, the steering inputs as well, just trying to be as precise as you possibly can. It's a real fine balancing act to try and dance on the knife edge of grip and also comfort. As we get into the final hour, I would be surprised if we didn't see the mistakes start to ramp up a little bit more. Yes, the drivers can start to sense the finishing line, but there's still a long way to go, and they are going to be feeling the effects of what has been a very long stint so far, and still with just under an hour to go.
Very long stint. What will feel like an extremely long race. As Fabio with a brief yellow flag moment. Looks like he's okay, just wide at the bus stop chicane. Time he could ill afford to lose. Not nearly as bad as the situation that Tiamat Mardik was just in, though, because he's got another yellow course caution on the case of this Spa-Francorchamps track. A lot of drivers, like you say, feeling the wear and tear of this endurance race. And while long, it has been lavish. What a sensational spectacle we have had. I can absolutely say that now. Le Mans Ultimate, you have not disappointed one little bit for a first Creator Series race. You have done yourself extremely proud, I've got to say, as Dirk Chocolate locked into the slipstream of Infratic. Had that mistake at the bus stop, trying to squeeze him as much as possible. Just about enough space left. Dirk Chocolate says, I'm going to come on through. Fabio, though, just privy to it, puts up the defence. A very diligent defence, in fact, from the Ferrari. Will the advantage lend itself as they descend down into Bruxelles? They have got the lap traffic in the way, though, so Fabio will slip on down the inside. Dirk Chocolate will follow through, and that will equalise proceedings for now.
If you thought the only Creator Series rivalry really was Tiamat Mardik versus Alex Gillen, I present to you, and we present to you, the return of Infratic versus Dirk Chocolate. I haven't competed in F1 together for a couple of years. Haven't seen Dirk in the F1 Creator Series since F1 23, I believe. So getting on for 2 years ago is the last time these guys were fighting over the same piece of tarmac in that universe. Well, we're back in the big time, aren't we, here? And this is a battle that you imagine is going to be pretty spicy for 7th and 8th as they negotiate the pink bikini there of TK, who has got himself up into 8th place in class, has disposed of Jake Dent in the Mercedes, who's bumped down into 9th. Tiamat Mardik into the pits, but unfortunately for the Australian ace, he's been slapped with a drive-through penalty. That's going to add insult to injury after a troublesome 10 minutes or so.
Indeed it does. Australian sensation finding a slump as into the pit lane they went. This is a replay of how on earth it happened. Brake as late as you dare, possibly just trying to listen to the engine, whether he misjudged. Because I've done it many a time in Le Mans Ultimate, despite my fleeting experience with it. I've pressed the pit lane limiter button by mistake because it's binded to another button on F125. And that might well be what has happened as he peels into his box. Has to be wheeled back a tiny bit, but a drive-through penalty for Tiamat Mardik. Not what he would have wanted to see as we just dip underneath the hour mark.
Bungie with the yellow flag thrown as well, so a bit of a drama for him. Sparks, you can see there, just flashed up, jumping into the pit lane as well. Former iRacing Creator Series champion, reigning iRacing Creator Series champion, Victor in Season 2. Of course, hello, we're back on screen. I wasn't expecting that. I was adjusting my glasses that had steamed up from all of the action, all the hot air that's been coming out of my face in particular. Are you refreshing as well, getting the water in? I had to get 3 cups because I thought my throat was going to absolutely explode. As we see, I think that's Dirk running slightly wide there through Malmedy.
Oh, it feels like one of those days, doesn't it? That's exactly what we expected this would give to us, though.
I would pick them all up, the 3 cups, but I'm either going to fail and throw it all over myself. I mean, I can try.
Do it. Do it.
All, I mean, lovely colours on display as well.
Oh, yes!
We've got an orange,
That is
I mean-
supreme bar confidence, mate.
Anyone looking for a job
Fair
in
play.
Costa Coffee or something, call me.
You thought this was unhinged? Try the actual Le Mans broadcast past 2 a.m. because that is unhinged, ladies and gentlemen. But we're underneath the 55 minutes remaining mark. We're well in to the quarter part of this race. And Tom, big question for you here from both classes. Who's a driver you can highlight? Who's really impressed you this race?
Oh, lots of people to throw down. I have to say I've been impressed with Fabio. Now, I know that he has got a decent amount of experience on this game, but he's had a lot of trials and tribulations. We've seen him have a couple of chats with the barrier, a couple of bits of contact out there, so he's clearly not running optimally with no damage on the car, but he's been really consistent pace-wise, and if he hadn't had those dramas, I think would be fighting sort of around where Davide is. You have to talk about El Tacaman, though. He's been really impressive, but Raz has been coming back at him, and I thought Raz would be strong. I didn't necessarily think he would be quite this strong. His consistency is excellent. His energy management as well has been better than the drives around him as well. He's managed to keep the pace up also. So from the hypercar class, those are the two drivers I'm looking at. You have to speak about Ryan 83 and F1 Alex in the LMGT3 class, but also Ricky 03, fourth place in the McLaren. He's very quietly gone about his business. His pace has been really solid and consistent. He may be 64 seconds off the back of the leading Lexus, but I think he's done himself absolutely no disservices in the hour or so that we've seen so far.
Couldn't agree more with you as we see the Ferrari peeling out of the pit lane, the number 50.
Alex is through.
And Alex is through on those newer tyres. Alex is through. Very well spotted indeed. A change for the lead here in GT3. As we see, that is Nebwell in the Toyota. We're looking to run on 83, presumably a mistake on his part as he heads through Malmedy corner. Alex there with a bucket of popcorn, and Ryan gets it crossed up. In fact, really crossed up. Does a splendid job to save it because that is careering into Barrier in a matter of moments if he doesn't just stamp on the brakes and pick up the corrective lock. So fair play to Ryan 83. No consolation though. F1 Alex leads GT3 once again.
Big armful of opposite lock there as Skyzy, yellow flags are out, has dropped behind Davide in the BMW. Skyzy now 32.5 seconds off the back of the other Peugeot, and clearly has had some kind of drama into the bus stop. I would imagine lost 5 seconds, nearly 40-second final sector time. Not good news for Skyzy as one of the favourites just continues to fall further and further away from the leaders. This is Skyzy, in fact, down into the bus stop. Do we lock? Yes, we lock the rear tyres, loop it round. Lewis Hamilton star from 2025 in Spa, driving a completely different car, but same outcome, taking a trip off into the colourful runoff area. Just representing the flag of Belgium there. Very nice.
Gotta absolutely love it. That's a fun fact of the day. Usually the curb paintings around every single track, they sometimes represent the flag of that particular country. In this case, Belgium does so very nicely indeed with yellow and red curbs, which is pretty cool. Not that Taco Man cares about that. He's P1 at the moment. There's all kinds of debris that's been thrown around in the background. As into the pits comes Fantasy F1, giving a little smooch to Barrier. Don't play chicken with Barrier. He can be very aggressive, my friend. But into the pits, no dramas whatsoever, no penalties picked up. Nick Flies is also in that McLaren car, and Tim Marduk is in once again, it looks like. I thought it was a drive-through penalty, unless he's picked up another drive-through penalty.
Oh, no.
There's been 2 for the price of 1 for Tim Marduk, potentially.
Unideal would be the way that I would describe that one for Ben, because he's exiting the pits, but he's still got that drive-through slapped beside his name, so that would be unfortunate. Kareem might have himself another friend. Safso down there battling away in 17th and 18th. Ben might be joining them. 3 Creator Series champions could be scrapping, maybe contact in the pits. Don't expect to be overtaken by a GT3 car, but Nick Flies had to slam the anchors on there because he was almost clattering into the rear of Tim McMullen because he struggled to get the power down despite having the pit lane limiter on. Interesting stuff there.
Here we are, Dirk Chocolate once again interlocked, and run it back once again. Fabio was right on the back of Lens the Goat. Lens the Goat has escaped though, and that means Dirk Chocolate, we can run back the rivalry. Friends old and new in the Creator Series combined together once again. We ride on board with the chasing Toyota of Dirk Chocolate. Kyoso, no, it's not Kyoso, excuse me, Ngoma chasing down Infratic for P7 on the road. As they are on currently, that will be their 46th tour of Blanchimont Corner in a matter of moments. Keep it pinned, they absolutely do. This is where we've seen drivers make mistakes. Skyzy most recently. Does Fabio snatch a break? Does that give Dirk the opportunity? I'll tell you what, he is immensely brave on the brakes. surpluses of confidence oozing from that Toyota car as into the pits comes Skyzy. No real surprise, not least to charge his battery up, but also to get some new tyres on, because that scrub tyre stint was brutal.
Started pretty well though, didn't it? Got himself a 20-second lead out in front. That feels like quite a long time ago. Couple of mistakes since then, couple of mistakes, one into the Fanier chicane, the other one into the bus stop, and that has really eradicated any chance you would think of Skyzy taking home the inaugural victory in the hypercar class here in the Creator Series Le Mans Ultimate. It does feel good to say that, doesn't it? And I don't know about you, Carl, both of us have some experience on this game. I'm just going to hold that thought because battling will continue here as Fabio and Dirk pile down into the Lake chicane. I thought they were overtaking somebody, but that was a lap car getting out of the way. So I'll return to what we were going to say, which was both of us have some experience on Le Mans Ultimate. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm watching the F1 and commentating on that, I don't necessarily get the drive to get, as I nearly died there, to get involved in it. But with the Le Mans Ultimate stuff here, there is that sense of it would be so cool just to see how it's like, to feel what it's like driving in this kind of event, because there's so much going on and there's so much micromanagement the drivers have to do and there's so much that they have to think about. I mean, the scale of it almost caused my lungs to explode a minute or so ago. So very, very exciting for the future.
The magnitude of the occasion that we're dealing with,
Absolutely.
ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I agree, for lack of a better phrase and term. Absolutely, I agree. Le Mans Ultimate is utterly excellent. I've only really done one proper race. It was a 4 hours round Imola. GT3 was the only experience I really dipped my toes into, but I can't tell you how fun it was. I've not really played this game as much as I should have, truth be told, but every single time I have, it is just fun. And it's fun to find that sweet spot. It's fun to try and push the limits as Tiamat Malik is into the pit lane once again. And I'm hoping, for goodness sakes, that it is not another drive-through next to his name, because that would be extremely embarrassing. He'll peel out of the pit lane. We'll get the confirmation in a matter of moments' time. As out goes the Ferrari car. Kareem could definitely have a friend at this rate. In fact, so could Safso. They're not too far behind anymore in this cutthroat clash for the wooden spoon. There's down through Eau Rouge. I believe that was Nebwal, who is trying to chase down Davide for P3 on the road. Skyzy emerged in P10, just to put that into the equation as well. But I imagine he's on the new tyres, going to take those all the way to the end of the race. Just going to watch those sector splits as well. Tiamat Marduk peeling out of the pit lane. Does that drive-through clear itself, or are we about to have an absolutely wonderful time? I believe it has cleared itself, unless that red thing also means another penalty.
That says stop go. So he's got rid of the drive-through, but then it's kind of got a little bit worse. We've had 2 drive-through penalties. Now let's have a stop go penalty as well. Rather than just flying straight through, we're going to stop you in the box as well, because clearly Ben is becoming capable of serving penalties. I don't know what's gone on there, but you said that Kareem was going to have a friend. I think Kareem's going to be blasting past his friend fairly shortly. Half a second separating them. That is Kareem, just tucked up underneath the rear wing of Tiamat Malik. And I think salvation will be what the Moroccan maestro see, because finally he's going to hand the wooden spoon over to somebody else. Or is he? Because he's locked the rears. Oh no! Calamities at the back. We've got bowling into Rivage. Kareem was maybe just a little bit too excited to get out of last, because he locked the rears and slammed into Ben, who once again cannot catch a break in the second half of this race.
Unbelievable, honestly. Shades of Ocon and Behrman at Silverstone in 2025. The synchronised spinning between Ferrari cars. And, well, Kareem was brave and bold to try and go for the move into Michelle's, locked the rears, and that is all she wrote. A left-right good night, as the snaps would dictate it. Meanwhile, at least for Dirk Chocolate, it's much more calm, ladies and gentlemen, which is great news for us. The blood pressure is reduced once again, as Ben will have to serve a stop-go. In fact, Riccio 3 also has to serve a stop-go, so terrible news for the McLaren in the GT3 class, down to P5, and you know what that means. It means Scotty Designs, by the way, is in P4. This is absolutely excellent stuff, as almost overcooking it wide goes Riccio 3. Into the pits peels Punju. It's all looking on the up in this race.
Doing a very good job, you have to say, Scotty, considering the Mustang can be quite challenging to drive. Not the easiest car to manhandle around, and it's also very, very bad on virtual energy. So you have to work very hard to try and save as much of that as you possibly can. But he's doing a really good job. Good acceleration as well, which will help Scotty as Ben into the pits once again. Stop go, fingers crossed is going to be served. Please, everybody cross your fingers. Touch wood, whatever your superstitions are. Don't walk under any ladders or smash any mirrors. Can we get this penalty served? And can we send Ben out for more than 1 lap at a time? It's almost like testing. We're just doing installation laps at this point. Yes, it's cleared, and I can't see anything popping up. Ideal.
penalty do you have, Ben? No is the answer to that question. Ben is absolutely fine. Into the pits, though, peels the race leader. It was only a matter of time on 2% worth of virtual energy was El Taco Man. Razin, no real surprise, follows him in as well. So how do they judge this now? Do they dare go for that slightly lower energy as, well, off the jacks goes the Ferrari. That is of Bresca Chioso, not interfering with Razin Chai or El Taco Man, who peel into their box, stop on their lines, wheeled back a tiny bit, is the Peugeot driver. But what do they do here? They've obviously got to go for scrubbed or new tyres, but also the question of virtual energy. Do they go slightly less, get out and get track position first, and pray they can keep it to the end while saving the energy? Or do they go for that security? That's the big question.
He's got security in his cup that he's got there. My word, that is a substantial piece of wear there. And like you say, though, returning to that, it's going to be interesting because both of these drivers, remember, changed tyres at the previous stop. So they could maybe get away with not changing tyres again and trying to nurse these to the end of the race, albeit we've seen how that goes for M Sky Z. Both of them topping up fully on virtual energy, are charging up to 100%. So who is going to be sent on their way first? Razin off the blocks faster. So I don't think he's going to get ahead of the Peugeot, and he definitely does not, but maybe just getting a little bit of an advantage, just closing up a tiny bit, because those tenths, they are very evenly matched on pace. Taco has a little bit of an advantage compared to Razin, but it has been fairly equal so far. That might just be the advantage and the leg up he needs to try and get himself that little bit closer.
Netball still stays out, though, for another lap. Another yellow flag. Tiamat Marduk has had a moment on the circuit, has cleared all the penalties, hasn't stopped the woes from raining in on his parade, though, as we head through Rochelle's once again. That age-old story, this corner, does not lend itself lightly, as Tiamat Marduk gets some Australian aliens involved with that particular corner. It's on the lap traffic, perhaps. Tries to get past Fantasy and tries to cut across. That is a big, big hit into the wall for the Ferrari. That is definite damage on the rear. And again, another misdemeanor from the Ferrari driver.
Skyzy's out. Skyzy's retired. I think he binned it. I was just watching on board with Ben there, and there was a car pitched into the wall at the Fanier chicane, a place that Skyzy's had one or two dramas already. And this, I think, is going to be all she wrote for the Frenchman patrolling the French Peugeot car down into the Fanier chicane. Is it a carbon copy of what we saw before? Yes, but at higher speed, slamming backwards. And that is the end of that Peugeot LMDH car. And that is Skyzy's race absolutely run.
Goodness gracious me, how it has kicked off as the attrition wears in. Another mistake for Tiamat Marduk. Only brief this time, though. He carries on. It will be El Taco Man. Once Nebwall peels into the pit lane, has got 0.4% energy left, has judged it very meticulously and calculated it well. Just has to be careful not to completely run out as he heads into pit row, but judged very interestingly by Nebwall, who has taken those tyres just that little bit further, taken his car just a little bit further, and given himself proper security and assurance that he can make it all the way to the end. Alex can't drive into the pit row as well, and also what I was about to mention, the GT3 cars are in too. Vince, Alex Lynham, Ryan Littlemore, Ryan L83, F1 Alex, whatever you want to call them, they are about to peel out of pit row. Ryan L83 makes his way out onto the track for the final stint in this race. F1 Alex, who was in front, now has to settle in behind the Lexus. And is this a carbon copy once again, potentially, where F1 Alex is going to have to make up the time and make up the place on the track?
Moose TK, by the way, up into fourth, admittedly.
Yes!
Still has to make a stop and running on 5.5% of energy left. But the pink bikini powers on still. And interestingly with Ben Law, as he came into the pits, he was running on what the equivalent of electrical fumes are. I'm not 100% sure what it was because his energy was at 0.0%, which for people that aren't particularly educated on maths, that means empty. And of course, if you do exceed the virtual energy limit, you get a stop-go penalty. So maybe a little bit fortunate that he did either A, time it very well, or maybe just took a few liberties with that one, as we are with the Porsche if Alex can't drive, just taking a trip through the gravel coming out of Malmedy, and that will bring Sparks just behind right onto his tail.
Trying to figure out if that's Sparks or if that is the lapped Cadillac of Safso. Either way, with a bucket of popcorn, another mistake from Alex can't drive. So Safso with a chance to unlap himself against someone in this race. That would be very welcome indeed for the blue blur in the Cadillac. There's the pink bikini of TK, and yes, it is Safso all over the back of Alex Can't Drive. Not really what the Porsche driver wants in his conquest for higher places in this race, as Nebwal is peeling out of the pit lane, still says pit next to his name, should be out comfortably into P4 in this race. And once he does, it is just all-out attack to the very end. Of course, El Taco Man leads this race with Razin Shai in P2, about 6 seconds off of the race lead. But then you've got Davide, who is only 3 seconds off Razin Shai, presumably. Well, I presume he's gone for scrub tyres of his own, but he's got great pace in the BMW. Could throw a spanner in the works yet.
I haven't spoken about Davide for quite some time, but very calmly gone about his business, still within 10 seconds of the leads, and like you said, taking chunks of time there. Out of Razin Shai, gap just coming up towards 3 seconds, so that could be an interesting little battle. We saw how quickly things could deteriorate for Skyzy in the middle stint on said scrub tyres, and it eventually resulted in his retirement, unfortunately, because it was looking so positive at one stage. Found himself 20 seconds clear after not changing his tyres. That gap got slashed, a couple of mistakes in there, and eventually the Fanish chicane proved to be the downfall of the French powerhouse in the Peugeot. But we still have one Peugeot leading the way, and that is El Tacman, 6.6 seconds ahead of Razin. So Razin in that Lambo clearly struggling significantly more than Tacman for tyre warm, trying to fire the tyres up as best as he possibly can. 2:05.7 for Taco Man. We'll see what Razin's time is, 2:07.7. 2 seconds he's lost, 3 seconds he's lost to the Beamer that's catching him hand over fist.
Really grim reading again. Does not like the new tyres whatsoever. Lost 4 attempts in the first sector to Taco Man. Half a second in the second sector, and then over a second in the last sector. So Razin, the Lambo, the tyre warm-up, not lending itself nicely whatsoever. But it holds down P2 for the moment. It's got to be careful and wary of the BMW behind. We look at the rear view of one of our hypercar contestants. They make their way through Puon. What might well be the 51st time this race. It is Sparks, we can confirm, heading through the left-hander and in towards that dreaded Fania chicane. It's the start of a horror movie. You can hear music resonating around your ears, but in this case, no drama for Sparks, who carries on his merry way and is trying to chase down Alex Can't Drive. Only 4 seconds between the two of them. So just making his way up is the hypercar driver in question.
And I hope you're ready for a legendary battle, because for 6th and 7th in the GT3 class, I think we're going to see Scotty Designs, by the way, versus the pink bikini of Tomothy, they call me TK. So keep a watchful eye out on that one. Going to be a fascinating battle as TK sneaks up behind the Mustang. You would imagine at some stage within the last half hour or so that we've got, going to be about 12 seconds off the back of Scotty, but has had a pace advantage.
It's that guy Vince going through. Tom Knight getting dutifully out of the way of the golf liveried Aston Martin. Of course, who doesn't like a golf livery? It's absolutely beautiful as they head through with the old shake and bake through the right-hander of Malmedy and downhill towards Bruxelles, with now nearly 35 minutes to go. What has been flat-out action all the way through. Everything we expected from our Creator Series here in Le Mans Ultimate, as Reska Kyoso crosses the line to complete his next lap of the race. And in the background, I'm trying to see if the pink bikini's fine. Indeed, he is absolutely fine. Keeps it on the road. The target in question, though, he's got about 11 seconds to Scotty Designs up ahead. And Scotty is well on his way to a very comfortable P6. What a great race Scotty has had.
Consistency. That has been key for Scotty. He's kept it clean. As Tierman Malik, you can see the yellow flags out, I think has had another drama for the two-time Creator Series champion. In fact, there he is, as we just see the flash of Scarlet with Ben beached in the gravel through again the Fanier chicane. It's so interesting, isn't it? Because in F1, it's a bit of a nothing corner, really. You just chuck it in and 99 times out of 100, the car sticks like glue to the racetrack. But again, into the Fanier chicane, second part, maybe the application of the throttle after the braking, again pirouetting into the Bosch tyre walls there at the extremity of the circuit through the gravel, which doesn't do a particularly good job of slowing the cars down. And it's becoming quite the troublesome corner.
Really is. There's Tierman Malik getting up behind that guy. Vince will make an overtake just to apply some more confidence in his corner. Through he goes. Past the lap traffic. And there's Hayden Gullis, who's been very quietly making his way up the order, despite the drive-through at the very start, has remained incredibly consistent up to P12 now. Gap between himself and Tom Bina is a minute and a half, I will be honest. But even so, the level of acclimatization he's had, the level of consistency he's managed to pick up, even after all of the conundrums posed his way at the very start, he's had a great run as well.
Should be able to get to the end with the energy that he's got left. About 74% still left in the pipes of that beautiful 007 Aston Martin Valkyrie. Has very much had a license to thrill so far and has been thrilling us, especially with those shades that you have to say are absolutely spectacular. Hypercars that can't go to the end. Kareem 17 still will have to make one more stop. 15% of virtual energy he's got left. Not going to be able to make the remaining 33 minutes. And Safso also on the bubble. 31% energy left for another one of our Creator Series champions. 14th at the moment for Safso with the adventures that he has had. Some really good pace. The peaks for Safso in this race have been very strong. TK yellow flag, there he is. Parked sideways across the road through the Lacombe chicane, and that will probably cool his charge up towards Scotty Designs before it's even really begun.
Absolute heartbreak once again. I felt my heart rip itself apart in commentary corner as wide goes Hayden Gullis, but he does stay on the track. No dramas with the rear grip. Kareem 17 is into the pit lane. Reska Kyoso has had a moment in sector 1, going very gingerly indeed. Up, down, through the Camel Straight, and there might be the proof why. Jakey's gone round. Jakey's gone round on the Camel Straight. What on earth has happened between those two? We're about to find out as Jakey spoons it off into the barrier.
Whoa.
A massive crash. Reska Kyoso caught up. That is an absolute, well, for lack of a better term, explosive crash from the Mercedes driver. No real external damage, as you can see. There will definitely be damage on the MFD, though. That was a nasty hit.
Well, firstly, that is a 10, I have to say. Look at the barrel rolls. There's one that we almost complete. Bang, the Ferrari comes through. I was also going to say, backed it into the walls. We just caught him reversing. Not really going to make that much of a difference as he's been smashed from pillar to post. Almost clipped there by the Ferrari coming through. That is a significant crash, I think it's fair to say. The Mercedes, we know over the curbs and bumps, is quite stiff. It doesn't react well to the undulations. And when you're going up through Eau Rouge and Radion, you have to be aggressive over the curbs. The Mercedes are going to be quite recalcitrant, especially at the front. And eventually that was what threw him into the wall, threw him multiple times across the circuit, barrel rolling around. It was like we're watching the skateboarding at the Olympics, almost doing half pipes along the circuit. And eventually, Reska Kyoso, as we saw, the innocent party there after being met with an upside-down Mercedes in the middle of the road.
Honestly, it's probably fair to say as well, it's more than just emotional damage Jakey's picked up from that particular crash, as through the right-hander he goes. And, well, it will be a retreat to the pit lane, I imagine, just to fix the damage and just to make sure he actually gets to the end of the race without many problems. I would not be surprised. I mean, if he hasn't got steering damage after all of that, after going 12 rounds with Barrier and indeed the Sky and Reska Kyoso, then he's... I don't know what higher power he's called upon there, but let's ignore that for now. Dirt Chocolate's in P4. I don't know how it's happened, but Dirt Chocolate is 4th place. He's got the energy to make it to the end of this race. And another driver that has been quietly whittling away and just extracting the most out of that Toyota car, using their consistency absolutely brilliantly. Dirt Chocolate is well on his way. Couple attempts faster than Davide, but equally is 42 seconds behind. Stranger things have happened. Speaking of which, Alex Can't Drive has had a meeting with the Demogorgons at some point during this particular lap. But he regains the track and he's absolutely fine on his merry way. What a great drive Dirt Chocolate has had as we have a replay.
It's superb, hasn't he? As here is Alex Can't Drive, maybe showing for the first time that he really can't drive. Tries it around the outside of No Name, just gets a tap a couple of times, and a little bit of a forced spin there round. Vince, not really too much he could have done in the Aston Martin on the inside. Tried to keep it as tight as he possibly could, and just meeting in the middle, and unfortunately it was the Porsche hypercar that came off second best in that altercation. An unlucky one, and something that is going to happen from time to time in endurance racing. Battle, though, continues. Ryan Littlewell versus Alex Lynham. F1 Alex better run out of La Source, and for the first time in quite a while, the lead changes hands in the GT3s. BMW now leading Lexus. It's going to be the turn of Ryan to try and charge back up the hill through Rouge and Radion to see what his riposte is, but he gets out of shape through Radion.
Yeah, Alex has been significantly faster. There's a Ferrari peeling out of the slipstream. I would, if it's a red Ferrari, I assume it's Benjamin Daly, followed by Kareem 17. The battle for the wooden spoon is really reaching fever pitch. But through they go in towards the Lacombe chicane. Alex was taking basically half a second every sector out of Ryan, particularly on that previous lap. No real surprise, he's been able to mosey on through with a scintillating switchback as Taco Man crosses the line to start his 55th lap of this 2.4 hours of Spa. We are now a full quarter of the way over what a conventional Formula 1 race would be around this particular venue. That's the beauty of endurance racing. The concentration has got to be at an all-time high. Razin Chai, 8.5 seconds behind. Setting similar lap, well, not in fact, because he was a second down once again. Taco Man has had an incredible drive during this race, got the lead at turn number 1, on lap number 1, basically. And ever since then, has almost not put a foot wrong, only other than that slight spin around from Skyzy in that first pit stop. Well, that was the real only problem he faced. But outside of that, it has been an imperious drive from the Peugeot.
Done a really, really good job. As of so many, Razin maybe 8.5 seconds now away from El Tacman and the chance of winning, fading lap by lap, but has been really impressive, as has Davide, as has Dirt Chocolate, who for pretty much 50% of this race has been running outside of the top 10, was getting stuck in 11th, 12th, 13th with the likes of Reska Kyoso, Tim Amada, Kareem 17, Punju as well. Now running comfortably inside the top 5. Fabio 5 seconds further down the road. We could, though, be seeing the two Toyotas trading blows here on the run up the hill. Down the Kemmel straight we plunge into the slipstream. Goes Ben Law. Dirt Chocolate moving all over the circuit, throwing the defensive shape. It's going to have to be the long way round into the Les Combe chicane. Who's braver? Under brakes. Law tries to keep his foot in it. Outside, turns to the inside. As we come up towards Malmedy, there was a little bit of side-to-side contact. Law doesn't want to back out of this one. Dirt gives him the space coming through Malmedy. Again, the long way around the high road into Rivage. Dirt getting his elbows out. Doesn't want to hand this one on a plate to Law around the outside. And does a very good job of keeping 4th place within his grasp. Dirt Chocolate putting on a masterclass. As I say that, he goes wide through 9, and once again will be straight back under the microscope.
This is incredible racing once again. We've seen it all the way through, but when they go side by side, so much racing room and respect given by every single driver, barring mistakes, of which we have seen many as people try and get to grips with Le Mans Ultimate. When they get it right, boy, they get it right. We are under half an hour remaining, as wide this time goes Nebwell to pay the compliments of Dirt Chocolate up ahead. It will be the run to Blanchimont. They will go through the green machine versus the red romp. The Toyota car versus Toyota car. It is Japanese synergy towards Blanchimont corner. Again, firmly in the wheel tracks. I feel like Nebwell knows he's got the grip. Whether he wants to do a send like Rasin Chai did on Skyzy at the bus stop chicane is a question for another day. The answer is no, he won't. You can see how much more confidence he has. Surely it's a matter of if. Well, no, when, excuse me. Not if, but there's the question, though. There is the if in question. Because round goes Nebwell. Fabio moves up to P5, and that once brilliant rivalry will be reignited again in this race.
Yeah, the question turned very quickly from if he can get past Dirt Chocolate to if he can keep it pointing in the right direction. Unfortunate little lazy mistake there from Law coming out of the bus stop. I think just a little bit too overzealous with the loud pedal, looping it round and handing 5th place on a silver platter to Fabio, who's another driver that's quietly gone about his business. After getting through the opening salvos, where at times it felt like he was being battered from pillar to post from time to time, inside the top 5. Now, can he stay there? Because Ben Law does have some really strong pace, as does F1 Alex, because he's 5 seconds clear in the GT3 class. And I'm starting to think that Ryan maybe hasn't changed his tyres at all in this race. The Lexus is so good on tyre wear, especially in comparison to the BMW. I'm thinking Alex has taken tyres at every single stop. Ryan's done the opposite, and finally it's come back to bite him. Has it bitten him in the behind going through the bus stop? Yes, it has, because he was clearly pointing in the wrong direction. And that will probably hand the victory to F1 Alex, who has just ground it out, has managed to get himself a 10-second buffer. Very limited rear grip there on the first part of it. Loops it round in the second part. Excellent avoiding action from Ricky 03 in the red McLaren. And 360 degrees completed there as Ryan back on his way, but with a little bit of egg on his face.
Cat-like reflexes from Ricky 03. Very well done, Maestro, as he keeps P5 on the road. And actually, it looks like I'm trying to figure out what the gaps are. Yes, Ricky 03 is closing in on Nick Fly, so it'll be McLaren on McLaren warfare, potentially, towards the end of this race. Significantly fast, in fact, matching Nick Fly's this time through that first sector. Of course, that is courtesy of the avoiding action he had to take against this man we're highlighting here. Ryan L83, gap now 13.2 seconds. And will now be more because it's now Rasin Chai that slips on through. But Rasin's still not having a great time in this stint, still losing over half a second a lap to Taco Man, who is just come alive as this race has gone on. Just a superlative drive from the Peugeot driver. Looking for more battles as well. The answer is Nebwell is on the case of Fabio, trying to regain and make up for lost time. He knows P4 could be on the cards. He knows the pace is there, but he's got to keep out of Mistakesville as much as possible.
And Fabio just getting a bit closer to Dirk, so that could be a three-way scrap for 4th, 5th and 6th. That's going to be an interesting dynamic if they do all converge in the closing stage. And they've got a decent chunk, 16 seconds further back to Lenz the GOAT, who's then 28 seconds clear of Sparks in 8th. But I think El Tacman has just turned the afterburners on and is definitely burning a little bit more fuel and virtual energy. Razm was able in the first 2 stints basically to get a percentage more virtual energy saved compared to that lead Peugeot. With, 23 minutes to go, he's got 3% more energy now. So that definitely tells us that Tacman is trying to stretch his legs out in front. We can see that in the times, around 3/4 of a second a lap that he's gaining over the Lamborghini. The gap extending out to 10.5 seconds now. So I think El Tacman just turning on the afterburners really for the first time, pulling away as we see these two hypercars down to the bus stop. I don't actually think that's for position though.
No, it's not. It's Davide versus, I think, Punju in the Cadillac. Through goes third place BMW. On their merry way they carry as we look through to this is the Cadillac again, ladies and gentlemen. Whose Cadillac is who? Help me out. I don't know if it's Austrian Andy. I don't know if it's... I presume it might well be Austrian Andy because that looked to be Punju in P13, making his way through. As Safso peels into the pit lane, there's Punju with a yellow flag, though, in Sector 2. Only brief, but it is another caution thrown up in the middle part of the lap. It was, in fact, Austrian Andy. I'm glad I'm getting my red Cadillac sorted. What a bitter burden I have to face. That guy Vince is going faster, though. He's gone 7 seconds quicker than Ryan on that last lap. Of course, had that conundrum on the previous lap. So he's absolutely flying out there. Vince could well put himself in the conversation with just over 20 minutes to go for a potential P2 in this race if he can keep those skates on.
Ben Law going at it with Fabio. We saw just very briefly the Toyota down the inside of the Ferrari into the bus stop. There it is, and Ben Law has taken 5th place back off the hands of Infratic. The Ferrari bumped down into 6th. It was 8/10 of a lap, 8/10 of a second quicker on the previous lap. Tom Biener is the latest to see the yellow flag fly in the middle sector. Loses a place to Reska Kiosa, but can keep it going without too many dramas. Here is Tom Biener, thrown up straight away as we barrel down the hill into Pouhon. Do we just get a little bit too ambitious over the curve? Back end stepping out. Once we catch it, twice we don't. As we back almost, yes, we do back into the wall. And that is going to be some significant damage at the rear end of that Ferrari car and dropping outside of the top 10, handing it back over to Reska Kiosa.
There's Davide once again, catching up to that slower piece of traffic, just trying to clear it. Not that he has anything to worry about. 40 seconds the gap between himself and Dirk Chocolate, who currently sits in P4. Rasin Chai will cross the line. Start lap number 59 in his case of this race around the 2.4 hours of Spa as we have another yellow flag. It's Ben in P16, again in the middle sector. And I'm trying to figure out where he is on the track. It's the other chicane this time. It's not the Fandis chicane. It's the Lecom chicane for the Ferrari driver. As he brakes and hopes the car brays and sticks on its marks. Start at the curb. Hope that the anchors are slammed as firmly as possible. The rear tyres will complain. And they did complain. Not spat out into the gravel too much. And not having a little bit of a biff with Barry Tim Marduk carries on.
Looks a little bit like muscle memory there. And we're seeing it for a lot of drivers. When they try to catch the slide, they overcorrect. And that is what eventually sends them into that spin. And for some drivers, it sent them into the barrier and out of the race. I think that is the muscle memory from the F1 game in particular, where it's very forgiving on slides. If you do have a bit of oversteer, you can catch it pretty easily. And we know how that handling model works. Lock-to-lock steering, effectively. Not quite F1 2011 style, but Fernando Alonso style from the Renault days, where you can really crank on the steering lock, and that's the way you save the car as well. Get the front end to bite, and that'll tame the back of the car, which you can also help out with your throttle inputs. And I think that is maybe just having an effect on some of the drivers that have been more acclimatized to that F1 style of driving that you can't really throw into these hypercars in particular, the likes of Tim Marduk, the likes of Cream 17.
Look how quickly that guy Vince is catching. The pink Bugatti is there. There's a hypercar going past. But look how quickly he's caught on the last lap alone. 5.3 seconds to Ryan L83. I don't know, I can't help but feel that there might have been a mistake on his end, whether he actually wanted to go for new tyres and it just didn't happen, or whether that was the play all along. We, of course, won't know. It's all speculation. But surely he had to go for new tyres at some point, losing time hand over fist at every single corner. Even these corners where it's slightly more reserved and slower to pick up. Gains 4 tenths, make that half a second, make that another tenth or so through the left-hander, loses a little bit of time. That is pressure from Nebwall as he heads on through. Fabio will be on the case of the Aston Martin as well. A little bit of respite perhaps for the Lexus in P2, but Vince is absolutely flying, and there could well be a battle for P2. We still have 18 minutes to run.
A battle that we very much didn't expect as it erodes and erodes and erodes. 10 seconds now, the margin. The Aston Martin's aero platform, very strong indeed. Stronger than the BMW, stronger than the Lexus. Lexus has had the really strong tyre weight. It is maybe the class of the GT3 field when it comes to looking after its tyres, because it operates at a much lower temperature range. So the tyres don't overheat as much. You're not limited as much by thermal degradation as you are in particular in the BMW, which is maybe why Ryan's tried to be a little bit more aggressive with his tyre strategies. And eventually, it has caught him a little bit short. If he hasn't changed his tyres at all, that is why he's losing 5 seconds a lap to somebody like Vince in the Aston Martin, which is a very strong car. And I think we're just starting to see Vince getting the best out of this car. It may have come a little bit too late to win, of course, but if he can get second, I think he'll be very satisfied with that, as Ryan's into the pit. So he is definitely going to be getting shot of those tyres now. And if we thought a battle was coming, it definitely isn't, because the Lexus is parked in the pit lane up on the jacks.
Doesn't have to use the virtual energy though, doesn't have to replenish that. It's just a flat out tyre stop. Yes, it's an age before you make your way out of the pit lane, but when those new tyres get up to speed, the Hunter now turns to Hunted. In the case of that guy Vince, a P2 could be on the table, but Ryan is going to be electric quick on those new tyres. You just know he will be. His time in qualifying was excellent, and as soon as he's locked in to that GT3 pace, it will happen. As there goes Scotty Designs, by the way, still in that P6 position, and Ricky 03 in the meantime in the GT3 cars. It has been a McLaren battle, but a McLaren battle won by our resident Italian stallion. Through goes Ricky 03 into P4. Excellent work from him. And while we are under 20 minutes to go in this 2.4 hours of Spa, the inaugural Le Mans Ultimate Adventure, this is the order. In the hypercars, you have El Taco Man in first place, 10 seconds ahead of Razin Chai in P2, who has just started to catch a little bit, but it's not going to be enough as it stands. David A in P3 in the BMW. You've got Dirk Chocolate in fourth, with Nebwall in P5, 4 seconds off. Fabio just over 2 seconds off P5. Lens to go in 7th with Sparks YT in 8th. Alex Can't Drive in 9th with Reska Kyoso rounding out our top 10 there. Tom, why don't you take us through the GT3 order?
It's flip-flopped quite a bit, but it is F1 Alex leading the way, and comfortably now, with nearly 30 seconds in his back pocket over that guy Vince, who has quietly gone about his business, been consistent, hasn't quite had the outright pace of himself, or Ryan L83 with an interesting tyre strategy, trying to extend it, trying to steal a march on his rivals, hasn't worked, had to make an extra stop, and that has dropped him down into third as the yellow flags are flying once again for Sapso, who's had a few adventures out there. There he is. Once again, it's the Fanier chicane that claims another victim. It's McLaren 4-5, Ricky 03 and Nick Flies, who returns to the Creator Series for the first time in quite a while and has done a damn decent job. Nick Flies been very consistent. Haven't actually seen any mistakes so far from Nick Flies. I don't think he's come a cropper at all, so managed to keep it pointing in the right direction, which is always a good sign. Scotty Designs, by the way, in the Mustang in 6th as Ryan. Yellow flag is out, looping it round on the exit of Poo on. That's an interesting place to lose it. I wonder if there's a bit of contact potentially, and that throws him again even further away from that guy Vince, and that battle between himself and Alex that was looking very, very tight. Now 54 seconds separating them. Fantasy F1, Jakey Jake Dent, and then Tom Knight TK, 7th, 8th, and 9th. 2 retirees, one of them Concept 7 in the Corvette, who Beta due early on, and Chappers, who was having some technical difficulties, didn't get in to start, unfortunately. Here's what happened with Ryan.
Well, it's not the first time he'd met a high-speed corner, but it was contact. That's Alex Can't Drive, who just rips it into the back of the rear right corner of the Lexus. Just a minor tap, but it is a minor tap that you cannot play chicken with on this game. And so, Ryan L83 remains P3, still got a very decent buffer indeed, as we just ride on board with this pink Bugini. There's TK, robed in pink, just trying to chase down Jakey. The gap, I Can't quite, oh, never mind, I can see it. It's 40 seconds, it might not happen. But either way, still in this race, still giving it a damn good crack out there. And we can just hear that sonorous engine note of the Huracan, the screaming V10, the heart and soul of the GT3 grid.
Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? And it's been an unfortunate series of events, hasn't it, for TK? Caught up in some incidents. His pace has been really strong, and if he doesn't decide to return to the commentary box for the next Le Mans Ultimate race that we do run, whenever that should be in the future, I think he will be a serious contender as that experience builds. He's been streaming quite a lot on this game. He's been having some success, albeit did fall into the dangerous badge category after a couple of incidents that he picked up whilst driving, coincidentally, at Spa. But yeah, has managed to recover that to the green badge, the safe badge, and I think will definitely be one to watch in future as Hayden Gullis in that beautiful Valkyrie flies on through. Got himself back up into 12th place, although he is, according to the Delta, a lap behind Tom Biener in front. No, 1 minute and 28 seconds behind Tom Biener in front, so as near as makes no difference, almost a lap. 3/4 of a lap off the back of the Ferrari in 11th.
Past the Bosch signs we went. Many appliances of pace, and one of those is Hayden Gullis, who has just been working his way through. Punju's 11 seconds behind. Can't see him really making an impression towards the end of this one, as wide at the bus stop goes Hayden Gullis, but manages to pick it back up. Car complies nicely. But that's the thing we've seen as well, particularly from the F1 Creator Series side of things. No one's been immune to it, no matter what series they've been a part of. But it's the physics, the inertia of all of these cars as Safso brings out a brief caution once again. There he is, he's on his merry way. No damage, just emotion. But it is the inertia of these cars. Like you say, the overcorrection, as the weight violently shifts from one side to the other. Cars that are so much heavier and cumbersome than F1 cars that some are used to. And it's just a quirk that they've got to try and iron out. But, I mean, what action. What action we have had. Taco Man still leads. Under 10 seconds is the gap between himself and Razin Chai. Just started to whittle away at the gap. The two that have been equalised in terms of pace. Now equalised once again. Razin trying to find the ascendancy with 12 minutes to go. It's not over till it's over. Taco Man can still throw this away. Razin can still find blistering pace. That's the queries. You bet we'll have the answers.
Razin with a little bit more energy, just under 3% more energy than the Peugeot in front, but both of them will be comfortable to the end of this race. Punju in the hypercars has the least energy, 21.6% with 12 minutes to go. That equates to about 6 laps. That should be enough to get him home, safe as houses. Cream 70 also a little bit low on energy, 24.3% for himself, but another driver that should get to the end without needing to make a splash and dash, or the equivalent of, with the energy charge. It has been a really interesting dynamic. We've seen so many different factors unfold, and so many different drivers come to the forefront. Some drivers looking good at some stage, then falling away. Other drivers coming on strong as the race has progressed. Hello, everybody, again. The GT3 has been a really interesting, real tough battle between... I'm going to include Vince in that as well, because he's always been thereabouts. 25 seconds is the gap between himself and F1 Alex. And what I think is good news as well, for when we do run this again, things are only just going to converge the more and more times people drive this. So next time we might have 4 drivers in the lead fight come the end of the race, or we might have 5 drivers in the GT3 class for the first 75% of it. That is the beauty of the drivers getting up to speed, learning the ropes of this game, and just starting to feel more and more comfortable with how this game operates and how the handling model works, and the little tidbits that you just need to try and pick up as you go along.
I have to say it's been a rousing success, ladies and gentlemen.
100%.
I don't know about all of you, but I feel like this has been an absolutely wonderful time. Hello again, by the way, everybody. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, no matter where you are in the world. We've been told we can give ourselves a mid-race shout-out, so I promise I'm not being self-indulgent. My name's Carl Paranik. If you type my name, you'll probably find me there. I'll tell you where you can't find me, and that is the back alleys of Andorra. You won't find me there. But Tom Wilkinson, you've been an absolute dream to commentate alongside, as you always are, but do shout yourself out. Where can the lovely people find you?
You've caught me out on this one, so I'm going to have to try and be creative as quickly as I possibly can. You can't find me at wilco.darts, because I haven't uploaded on that platform in about a year. But if you are interested in what I'm doing, wilco.com's on Instagram and TikTok. Trying to get as good as this game at as we possibly can. Myself and Carl have picked up this game in the recent few weeks and months. We can attest it is very, very addictive. Once you get into it, you get the bug, don't you, of driving these cars. I was personally someone that didn't really enjoy driving GT3 cars on other platforms, but this is the first time that I've driven GT3 cars and gone, this is a really enjoyable experience. You can really feel what the car's doing. And from a personal standpoint, LMU has been soaring, hasn't it, in player numbers, and it's just going to keep growing and growing. And if we can turn this into a weekly series, adding, as we said at the very start, another string to the Creator Series bow, I think we could have really, really interesting championship fights and also create some really good content and have some really good fun.
It deserves it, absolutely. And I
100%.
think it's so interesting to see all of these different simulators, the different nuances that they give to even the same type of cars. But what they've done in Le Mans Ultimate is they've just made it that much more enjoyable. Sometimes you can't get the specifics, it's right on the tip of your tongue, you just can't quite pinpoint it out. But what LMU does so well, I think, is those tyres, simulating the way the grip feels in each of these cars. It's a game that's tested, particularly in GT3 section, I believe, by a guy called David Perrell, who has a wealth of experience as the South African racing driver in those particular cars, how they should feel, hence why that experience just feels absolutely divine.
And we're only scratching the surface as well. We haven't seen any divergent tyre strategies or divergent fuel strategies because we're just learning the ropes of the game. We're learning its little foibles. We've seen drivers that have managed to adapt very well. We've seen drivers that have struggled a little bit. But when you look at some of the bigger names, the likes of Tim Marduk and Kareem 70, who haven't had the best of days on paper, throw Safso into that as well, their outright pace has been really strong. The ceiling for a lot of these drivers has been very high. And we have got drivers that are fairly closely matched in performance, as Lens the Goat does take a trip off the road through Pouhon, I believe that is. It's just the floor and the consistency the drivers need to work on. For most of them, they're doing 100% race on F1. That equates to around about 80 minutes every single week. We're almost doubling that. And that is a big, big culture shock for drivers to try and deal with.
Sure, Lens the Goat, the replay, how on earth it went so wrong at Pouhon corner, Poet, and you didn't know it. However, these are lines in the script that Lens the Goat will not want to see. Big crash between himself and Fantasy F1. Spears into the wall, no real surprise, and an extra biff for good measure. Well, that is, once again, that's the risk that you play, potentially, when you have that closing speed, when you have all that traffic to deal with. As we see again from the onboard view, you can see the BMW up ahead. Fantasy stays on the racing line. Nothing, I would argue, well, actually, he goes wide and then peels back onto the circuit. Whether he knew that Lens the Goat was on his way or not and should have kept out of the way, it's all speculation and hearsay. But either way, not what Lens the Goat expected. Spears off into Barrier, and he's got to lick his wounds, carry on his way. Still holds P7 comfortably, though, for the moment.
A good job that they hit the Avis barriers because they can try and rent a car to replace the one that's just been torched there into the wall. Nearly 5 minutes to go, coming to the end of the first and hopefully not the last. And hopefully it'll become a very weekly tradition. Le Mans Ultimate on the Creator Series platforms. Razinchai 11 seconds off the back of El Takaman in the hypercar class. That Gavin is actually taking a little bit of time out of F1, Alex. That gap has eroded by 4 seconds, Alex. You'd think he's just cruising at this stage, but the BMW, we know, is very harsh on its tyres, struggles a lot with rear thermal tyre degradation, so maybe just operating at 75% now, knowing that he's got a big buffer in his back pocket, does not want to throw this one away, as yellow flags are flying for Kareem 7T on the run-up into the bus stop. Interesting place to lose it. I don't really think he started braking too much there, so maybe a little bit of contact that our Season 10 F1 Creator Series champion has found himself embroiled in.
Here's the replay in question. The fast Ferrari. Kareem 7T, there he is. His name's not Savent, in case you were wondering. That's just the way it goes. Massive tank slapper. Out of bus stop. We didn't see the part where he might have made potential contact with a GT3 car. He was racing up towards the back of it. No consolation either way. He has to lick his wounds and get on his way. Here it is. That guy Vince just up ahead. I think it's Kareem that makes the mistake. Yes, it is. There's the snap. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. You ain't going to catch the quintuple threat, though. A 360 into the wall. A 10 out of 10 on that regard. But then the slide after that is all very clumsy indeed. And it has been a massive learning curve, and there's no greater example than that.
Nearly got a swapper on going through Blanchimont, and that would have definitely put his eyes on Storks. Tried his best to save the subsequent 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slides that he had, but eventually fishtailing into the wall. And it's going to keep himself in position 17. But 2 former teammates are about to do battle. Tim Marduk versus Safso, teammates in the the second season of the F1 Creator Series, both driving McLarens. Obviously, the McLaren hypercar not yet in existence, will be coming very, very shortly in 2027. That could be a fascinating duel in the closing stages. Safso just cruising up to the back of his old mate, Tim Barnett versus Safso. It may only be for 15th, but there will be a little bit of pride involved. And you can see the best lap times there. These guys are not slow. Ben 2:04.8, Safso 2:04.1. It is, as we said, the consistency and the lack of mistakes, as we see one there from Jakey trying to get out of the way. The hypercar's coming through. Blanchimont just loses the back of the car and sends him pirouetting into the gravel and barrier.
Get massively off the Blanchimont corner. That invites the pink bikini back into the action, though, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh.
No reset to track here. Can TK gain a place? He's heading at a rapid rate of knots. There's the pink bikini. Still a yellow dot at Blanchimont corner. Through goes one of the GT3 cars. How about this one, though? On board with TK. This is the most amped up I've been. Jakey's still in the gravel. Oh, my goodness me.
Who's
Board
that?
farmer. There's the Ferrari off as well. What has happened there? A Ferrari off at Blanchimont into the gravel. TK's got 2 for the price of 1.
Somebody's gone bowling there. I have no idea who the Ferrari is. Jakey's still in the wall. I wonder if this is 2 separate incidents that have gone on, because it doesn't look like that Mercedes has moved from where he initially lost it. There were 2 hypercars trying to go down the inside of Blanchimont. Jakey maybe just spooked a little bit on the dirty part of the circuit, loses the back of the car, backs into the tyre wall, and I think he's going to get a friend joining him fairly shortly.
Well, we'll look on the Jakey Surveillance Corp as we are reaching the very end of this race. Below 5 minutes to go. We still wait patiently with Jakey, who's just minding his business. He's trying to turn back onto the track. In a few moments' time, you'll see a Ferrari just harpoon on into him. It looks like he's out of the gravel, though, which is great news. Was it? I'm trying to think, was it Kareem 17 potentially that got into him? Well, I'll tell you who else who's off. Resco Kioso is off, and it's at that dreaded Fania chicane. The horror movie strikes again. Meanwhile, below 3 minutes to go, behind Jakey, who carries on his way, showing the nose to the inside. Jakey spooked out of the way effectively. What a drive it's been from Taco Man. Anything can happen. It usually does in motorsport. But this has been a superlative showing from the Peugeot driver.
Penultimate lap. We've done quite a lot, 68 to be precise, and you don't want to throw it away now. This is where the heartbreak will really set in. It'll be like dunking your heart in liquid nitrogen and then hitting it with a sledgehammer if you get it wrong on this or the subsequent final lap. But keeping a little bit of time in his back pocket, fastest lap of the race for El Tackman has been very, very strong. Withstood the assault from Razin in the opening stint, and then has just managed to pull and pull away as the Lamborghini fell further backwards. The BMW of Davide fell out of contention, as did the other Peugeot of M Sky Z, who eventually fell out of the race. That has allowed El Tackman to soldier on out in front, 11 seconds still in his back pocket. And F1 Alex didn't necessarily look at certain stages like he was going to pick up the win in the GT3 class, but as he starts his penultimate tour, that BMW has served him well. Dak Gavins a further 22 seconds back down the road. It was an almighty duel, wasn't it, with Ryan Lady3? But eventually the tyre strategies of the Lexus just not quite working out. And Ryan's charged to try and be the first GT3 victor on LMU in the Creator Series, falling by the wayside.
Still have a decent little battle to go, ladies and gentlemen, in GT3. Because Scotty Designs has a big chance for P5 on the road. He's currently catching up to Nick Flies, who hasn't got much energy at all. 7.5% to go. Should easily make it to the end, but he's lost seconds upon seconds on this particular lap. The Ford will loom large in the mirrors. The Dark Knight laying the gauntlet to the Papaya Pro that sits in P5. We cross under a minute to go here in this endurance race. And, well, still many, many things to unfold. Nearly a second the gap. Scotty could get a top 5 here, Tom.
I wonder if Nick's just panicking slightly here, that he hasn't got the energy to get him to the end of the race, because if we do go one more lap, which I don't think we are, he's going to be absolutely stuffed. Either way, I think Scotty is going to take this one. He needs to be careful that he doesn't run out of energy, because that will be a big slap on the wrist and a big penalty to pick up post-race to the inside of Eau Rouge. And Radion as the race leader on the final lap. That is ballsy, is it not? Over the runoff area goes Nick Flies, maybe just put off ever so slightly by El Tackman, charging to the inside of Eau Rouge and then the outside up the hill through Radion. That was a little bit dicey, but he's still pushing on. He's dropped Razin by a further second, plus the rest on the previous lap.
Potentially to a replay, and it is Mr. F1 Alex who leads this race. Through the right-hander he goes, and while he's sitting pretty in the lead, he's turned into a tree, and that means many conundrums. We ride on board, though, with the, my goodness me, with the BMW, who's apparently harpooned it into the wall. in some very DDoSable affairs, but he's back on his way through Blanchimont corner, still holds the lead of this contest. The time has run out, and so through Pouon corner we go. 13 seconds the gap. There's a yellow again in Sector 2. That is Safso, who has gone off. Briefly, Tiamat Marduk still very much on his case in the battle for P15. But again, just a word on Taco Man. He's been absolutely exceptional. Experience paying off in space. That's the Ferrari the wrong way round. That's Lens the Goat that is the wrong way round. But we ride on board with Taco Man, the Peugeot Prince, the French connection. What a drive it has been. Had that one conundrum in the pit lane, but outside of that, it has been a superlative showing. The time has elapsed when they crossed the line. That will be that. Already celebrations going on in the chat. Our first foray into endurance racing. It has been electric endurance entertainment. There can only be one that wins. It has been an absolutely astonishing drive. In 2.25 hours, 2.4 hours of Spa, Taco Man crosses the line and wins the first ever Le Mans Ultimate event in the Creator Series. Razin Chai rounds the bus stop chicane to a cut above the rest, but Razin has to settle for P2. It will be a decent consolation though. He also drove a blinder out there today. We wait for the rest of the competition. We also wait for the leader of GT3. Alex is halfway round through his final tour, just needs to keep it on the road, and he'll win in the GT3 class.
Nick Flies did hold off Scotty Designs, by the way. The gap, well, has he? Because the checkered flag sign has come up, but they're still racing out there. I think Scotty Designs did just miss out on it. Ryan over the line in third, but it will be F1 Alex, who was confident about his chances, wasn't he? Going into this one in the BMW, and has laid bare why he had so much confidence going into it. Very, very strong performance from himself, as it was, of course, for El Tacaman. Bulletproof. Didn't make a single mistake. Looked a little bit dodgy when he strapped on the new tyres and fell to third, but once he fired up those brand new tyres, he was absolutely unstoppable, as Razin didn't quite have the pace to keep up, and M Sky Z fell by the wayside. It was superb from El Tacaman to take it home with the first hypercar winner. We wait to see the BMW of F1 Alex coming up towards the bus stop chicane, and still a little bit of time left to go. Dirt Chocolate with an almighty comeback to finish fourth, considering he was racing outside the top 10 for the first 50% or so of this race, ahead of Ben Law and ahead of Infratic. But here is F1 Alex through the bus stop for the final time. 17 seconds in his back pocket. The smile comes across his face, because that is a superb victory. Strategy right, consistency right, fuel loads right. And he has managed to beat out the attacks from that guy Vince and from Ryan L83 to take the GT3 win.
That guy Vince round the bus stop chicane for the final time. Credits to Dirk Chocolate, by the way, who had an exceptional, got through the ringer early on, but he's done an exceptional job to get P4. That guy Vince ends it in P2. A smile beaming across the face of basically every single driver that we've looked at in this race. Gyoso wasn't a million miles off, and a massive crash. Just an end of race rite of passage as Ryan L83 blitzes it into a Ferrari. Wouldn't have it any other way. Le Mans Ultimate, you have done yourself proud, as TK will reverse across the line, getting the Lightning McQueen push from Razin Chai, albeit slightly into the wall. Might have been miscalculated a touch, but Lamborghini on Lamborghini action. Well, Le Mans Ultimate, you have done exceptionally, my friend.
He was the king, wasn't he? TK there. Initials are perfect, aren't they? TK the king. Unfortunately, what happened on the opening lap would have been interesting to see what TK would have managed, but this is the flotsam and the drama and the head crunching that'll go on post-race as the drivers have to give them all a round of applause. That is a long old stint, 2.4 hours. Yes, some of them have done it for longer than that, but this is Creator Series, let's not forget. This is a completely different kettle of fish. And they've done themselves proud, and hopefully, as we see them on Ultimate, return to your screens on the Creator Series social channels. Hopefully not too far into the future, we'll see some more excellent racing.
The hypercar results, ladies and gentlemen. Taco Man takes the first ever Le Mans Ultimate win in Creator Series, followed by Razin Chai in P2. Davide in third with Dirk Chocolate in P4. Netball in fifth. Fabio in sixth with Lens the Goat, Sparks YT, Reska Kyoso and Alex Can't Drive, rounding out the top 10. Rest of the classification, you have Tom Biener, Hayden Gullis, Punju, Austrian Andy, Safso, Tiamat Malik and Kareem 70. Rounding out our finishing order, Skyzy, the only hypercar driver who failed to finish the race.
Twice as many GT3s failed to finish the race, but it was F1 Alex in the BMW taking it ahead of Datkovitz. It's the only two on the lead lap. Ryan 83 very much in the equation until a late stop for tyres. Just got the strategy ever so slightly wrong. Two McLarens in 4th and 5th, although Nick Flies had to keep his wits about him because Scotty Designs was right there. Fantasy F1 was involved in an almighty crunch late on going through Pouon. Does still manage to finish ahead of TK. Jakey in 9th. And it was Concept 7th. The second retiree because unfortunately Chappers didn't take the start with some technical difficulties in that Porsche. Another driver that, when we do see this in the future, keep an eye out because Chappers has got some really strong pace. But an excellent start. I think you will all agree.
Exceptional evening of endurance racing, ladies and gentlemen, as we are back on your screens. That was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant, genuinely. I'm not just saying that to appease the Le Mans Ultimate Massive. That was brilliant. I so enjoyed the different technicalities of the endurance racing. TK's here in the chat saying that he had loads of fun. Didn't matter where you finished in the race. There was so many learnings to be had and so many drivers were enamoured with that gauntlet being taken up. It was beautiful to watch.
This is day one. Let's not forget, everybody, day one of this journey. And if it does continue to grow as we're hoping we are and the drivers keep getting involved and we see people coming back week in, week out, who knows where we could be in 6, 12, 18 months' time.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, that was just one driver in the car. Who knows where we could let this rabbit hole go down to. Swapping drivers, perhaps. Creators making their own various teams. The scope is absolutely divine. Well, I think it's time that we talk to some people. Let's start off, I think, with the GT3 class winner. I did say to him we'd see you soon when we interviewed him earlier, when we got his thoughts and feelings, but he's back in our commentary box once again because he's done it. F1 Alex, you are the first ever winner of LMGT3 in the Creator Series. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
That sounds pretty good to me. That sounds really good. Oh, what a race, though. Like, that's crazy. I don't even know what to say.
Talk about strategy quickly, because it seemed like the new tyres really had the advantage. I wasn't quite sure what happened on Ryan L83's end, but it looked like you went for those newer tyres. It was a gamble that certainly paid off. Your pace was electric all the way through.
Yeah, so the first stint you will have seen we were straight behind each other. I couldn't get my words out. We was literally one by one, and we was within a second of each other the whole stint. And I heard him say that he wasn't going to change tyres. So in my head, I'm thinking, I'm not going to follow him. I'm going to do something a little bit different. So then the first stop came, and I only changed my front tyres, left my rears. They were like 89%. My fronts were like 60, 70%. So I changed the fronts, lost about 10 seconds in the pits, caught him back up again. Then on the last stint, I was like, well, I'm just going to go new tyres and we'll see what happens. Ryan only changed his fronts and left his rears on like 60%. So he'd had his rears, they'd been on all race. And yeah, I think he was on like 100 and something degrees at the end, like rear tires. So he just lost too much time. But it was strategy that won. It wasn't pace. Ryan was the same / quicker than me. It was literally strategy that won that.
From the multicast perspective, yourself and Ryan, for the most part of that, although he did get embroiled in a couple of incidents late on, looked like you kept yourselves to yourself, kept it very clean, very consistent out there as well. And that was what gave you that big advantage. Firstly, over Vince, you had a little bit of a pace advantage over on as well. And then the rest of the GT3 group that did get caught up in a few incidents. Yeah,
I mean, because me and Ryan had got a gap to Vince and then the rest of the group, we could see the hypers coming. It wasn't like they were sending it on Vince and they were just appearing in our mirrors. We knew they were there. So Ryan knew because I was leading the first stint, Ryan knew that I was going to lift off and let the hypercars through. So he didn't force anything because it's going to ruin both of our races. So I think it was more of a gentleman's agreement. We didn't agree to do it, but it was kind of, we both just lifted too much to make sure the hypers got through. It didn't ruin our races.
From an enjoyment perspective as well, we've said this is day one, or even day zero, you could say also. So many people have come and said that was a really good laugh, even people that didn't necessarily have the most successful at times. Where do you see us going in the next sort of 6 to 12 months with this game? Because to start things off, I think we've done a very good job.
I won't say too much,
Ooh.
but watch this space.
I like it.
Just I won't say too much because it's not confirmed. Nothing's been confirmed yet. This was a test race to see how drivers enjoyed it, see how the viewers enjoyed it. And yeah, it was. Do you know what? It was. I didn't see many people or race, but I had so much fun, and I was watching other battles on the track, and I could hear all the lads in the Discord. They were having a good laugh. Even TK, I think he crashed near the start, and he was a lap down after the end of the stint one. He was still having a really good laugh. So, yeah, I think from a driver's enjoyment point of view, from the GT3 side, I think it was really, really good. What's next for Creator Series LMU? Watch this space. You'll find out soon.
I like it. A positive premonition, ladies and gentlemen. Well, if we have much more of that to come, I, for one, will be extremely thrilled. And F1 Alex, I'll say it again, you're the first ever GT3 winner in...
Yeah, boy! Get up there.
Enjoy the evening. Well done, my friend.
Thank you so much, guys. Take it easy.
You too. Very well done. To our very first LMGT3 winner, that is Mr. F1 Alex. That was only one side of the tail, though, because we also have a hypercar specialist to talk to. And that man in question is Razin Chai. Razin, welcome in. P2 in the first ever Creator Series Le Mans Ultimate event. And I'll be honest, it looked like it was extremely enjoyable. And he is silent. Razin is still silent.
I'm on.
Are you not here?
He's here!
Yeah, no, it's been a good day. I can't really complain. You know, it's been a fun drive. It was quite long, but hey, I mean, I didn't expect to get pole, and I didn't expect to get P2. So I'm not really complaining one bit. Yeah, it was just tough. It was tough, you know, catching traffic at the wrong points. But yeah, GG's to Taco, man. It's just amazing pace he has, and I did my best to stick with him, but the tire warm up in the Lamborghini was just not it, not it.
Talk about the way that the cars drive as well. Obviously, we are very well enamored to you in the F1 side of the Creator Series, a game that behaves extremely differently. So, how are you adapting your driving to make the most of the hypercars in this game?
To be fair, when it comes to like these endurance events, you need to completely unlearn everything when it comes to F1, because the number one rule in endurance races is to not push. You need to kind of be consistent and tackle traffic smartly, because otherwise if you push, you're just going to spin and you're going to cause issues, and then it's not going to go well. So it's a really hard thing to learn, because on F1 it's always just push. So it's a complete opposite in that, and obviously the steering and hypers are completely different to the likes of, you know, something of a F1 car. So yeah.
From a strategy standpoint, we saw Skyzy go with the alternate strategy. Not changing his tyres, got himself a 20-second buffer, and then unravelled a little bit from there. Was there any consideration on your side to go down the route that Skyzy went for?
Yeah, I mean, for sure for the final stop. It was more of seeing how far the second or tank basically got to the end, and then how many laps would have left for the final refuel, because if it was only, say, half an hour, I probably wouldn't have changed any tyres. But because it ended up being almost an hour, still 50 minutes, I took the tyres. I do regret not taking hards in the second stint. I think that would have been the smartest choice, taking hards over mediums. Never driven on hard tyres, so it would have been brandy for me. But I might have gone to the end of that. I probably would have, because Dirk managed to do the whole race on it. So he didn't even change the tyres once. So I think it could have been doable. Maybe I should take more risk with the strategy, because, yeah, like I said, the tyre warm-up of the car is the biggest thing. And I was, say, 3 seconds behind Taco on that final pit stop coming in. By the end of the 2 laps of warm-up, I was pretty much 9 seconds back, 10 seconds, because the warm-up is horrible. So, yeah.
And comparing, obviously, the Lambo that you're in and the Peugeot that El Tacman was piloting, alongside the tyre warm-up phase, what were the biggest differences between the two cars?
I mean, the Peugeot, I think, is probably one of the fastest out there, but it looks a bit rear and slidey. So the Lamborghini was a last-minute decision for me today. You know, I was pretty much going to go in a Ferrari, and then I thought, well, we might as well try something different. Completely forgot the Lamborghini existed, because it's a 2024 car. So I tried it out, and I was just like, well, this just feels really solid and stable and consistent. So I just ran with it, and I think that's what helped me a lot. My lap times are very, very consistent, as long as I didn't hit traffic. And I think that's what brought me up there into the fight for P1.
No, absolutely excellent, honestly. And Well, all that remains for me to say is, Razin, firstly, thank you very much for talking to us. I'm glad you enjoyed it. First foray into Le Mans Ultimate, but it's P2 and a pole position. Absolutely take that. Enjoy your evening, mate. Thank you.
Hey, guys.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We now throw it back over. We volleyball it over to the other side, the GT3 side, because we have Ryan L83 in our midst. Ryan, welcome in. Congratulate. You got a podium out of all of it. Congratulations, but it seemed... I don't know what the best way of putting it is, but it seemed complicated at times.
Yeah, I mean, I just made the mistake of strategy for tyres. So, compared to Alex, I didn't take any tyres at the first stop. Then at the final stop, I gambled and took fronts only. And the rears were just gone after about 5 laps on the last stint. So, it's my own mistake. It's my own doing. But I thoroughly enjoyed that. Alex and I had a great battle. The majority of the race, and we're here for excitement and enjoyment, and I'm sure the viewers enjoyed that battle between us for the majority of that. But I've got to give props to Alex and also to Vince as well, who got P2 in the end in the GT3s. So all round it was good. Just strategy just messed up at the end, but one to learn for next time.
Exactly, one to learn for next time indeed. If you went again with in Le Mans Ultimate, should we go again in Le Mans Ultimate, which I pray to God we do. But if you did, would it be remaining in that Lexus car? Would you try a different machine to see what your skill set could bring to the table with another car?
Well, originally, I was going to go in the hypercar, but then obviously my experience in prototypes in other sims, I thought just have a bit of fun with this, have a go in a car that I'm not particularly strong in GTs. So if we ever do one of these again, I'll probably still do GT3s because I already enjoyed it. Car, I don't know, it depends. It depends on tracks and variants and stuff. So, I mean, the Lexus is a good car. The only issue I had with it is rear stability. Not on tyres, it's just how the car's been set up. But there's other cars you could go for. The Aston's pretty much a safe bet. I know Alex went for the Beamer last minute, but I know rear tyres was the biggest problem for the Beamer. But yeah, we'll see. But I can definitely say it'll be GT3s potentially again for me because I thoroughly enjoyed it and had a great time for 2 and a bit hours having a great scrap with people. So it was good. So yeah, probably be GT3s for me.
From a pace standpoint, things did ebb and flow quite a lot between yourself and Alex, minus the tyre differential and the tyre strategy divergence. Where were the main places that you felt like you had a little bit of an edge, and then vice versa, where Alex, whether it's down to the Beamer or maybe a particular part of the circuit that he was really hooked up on, that he had an advantage?
Probably the straights. I had better top speed than the Beamer. The middle sector, I was very strong and comfortable in the car. But if I'm going to be honest with you, I basically stayed behind. I lifted a lot earlier than Alex in most of the corners to save some virtual energy, which helped. At the pit stop, because I gained 3 seconds on him. We did the same sort of strategy after the first stint. So I was being very tactical with strategy in terms of fuel and virtual energy. And also tyres, because obviously if you don't... 1 pair of tyres is 5 seconds in the pit stop. Obviously, I think he took 2 at the end, so I should have took the opportunity there. But yeah, it is what it is. But... yeah, I mean, the Beamer has some good traits in very in fast corners, like Puon. He was very confident, but in the mid to slow corners, I think the Lexus is slightly ahead on pace with the Beamer. So, yeah, as I say, each GT3's got different traits that it's good at around some corners. And if we do another event like this, you may see like a Ferrari GT3 or a McLaren GT3 be quicker than the Lexus or the Beamer. So... we'll see in the next event if we ever do one of these again, and you may see some interesting car combos at the top of the order.
And just finally, from a multicast perspective, obviously on the iRacing side, you're in the fastest car class in that. On the shoes on the other foot today, how was that dynamic?
It was interesting. I know a lot of the guys in Hypercar haven't really played or driven the game as much as like myself, who's been playing it for quite a long time. So I know a lot of them were taking some interesting lines to overtake us. Obviously, we've been told in the GT3s just to stick to the racing line. And if, for example, when I was with Alex, I just lifted a lot earlier for the corners and let the hypercars through so that I wouldn't lose time. So I kind of know driver etiquette in terms of like how to drive it and stuff with traffic. But it is weird being on the other side of things and not being, as you say, in the faster car, which is good. But you learn from being, in the top, in the quicker cars, how to drive when you're in the slower car, if that makes sense. So it's you learn from it. But no, I mean, I would say 95% of the race with the hypercars around me were pretty good. Everyone was very clean. Though I think one Porsche hit me at Puon in the rear. But apart from that, everyone was very clean in hypercar.
Well, there you go. We're 3 for 3 in terms of overall enjoyment for Le Mans Ultimate. I say we bring it back immediately. But Ryan, massive congratulations. You got a podium. Take that, honestly, because you deserve it. Well done tonight. Many learnings, but I'm sure you will do them. Enjoy your evening, mate. Well done.
Thank you very much, and big shout out to Yous and Gareth behind the scenes as well for putting this on. It's fantastic job Yous have done. Props to the commentators for talking for 2 and nearly 3 hours. So props to you guys, and hopefully we'll see Yous very soon because this has been a blast. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. God bless, man.
God
well,
bless.
there you go. There you go. I mean, goodness me. We've also seen a wild Dirk Chocolate has appeared. You know what? Considering he didn't change the tyres, we might as well bring him in for a little interview. Why not? Dirk Chocolate, ladies and gentlemen, joins us here in the commentary booth. Congratulations, my friend. P4 on the road, a very bold strategy. Looked entertaining. You certainly brought that to the table.
It wasn't by choice, for sure. But it was kind of the only choice I got given when I was driving, and I think I wasn't going to change them on the first stint anyway because I was like, let's see what's going to happen. And then on the second stint, I was kind of like, let's roll the dice, let's gamble a little bit.
I mean, you're all over the place fighting throughout the field. Started in sort of the mid pack outside the top 10, then worked your way up into the top 5 and had some really good scraps with Ben Laura, with Fabio at one stage as well. How was that dynamic like, driving and batting with a lot of different drivers in there?
The problem that I have, I think, is I've got years of what's the word I'm looking for here? Of just competitiveness with like everyone. So everyone I came up to, I was like, are we gonna play nice? It was just like, no, we're not playing nice. And as soon as I got behind Fabio, I was like, if I'm not safe here, one of us is dying. So every single person I came up against was just, this is going to be a problem. We're in for an absolute fight. And it was fun. I loved it. It's like just pent up aggression from years from everyone that we were just kind of like, okay, nothing's changed then.
We'd not have it any other way, to be quite honest with you. Just the final thing, Le Mans Ultimate looked really enjoyable. Would you like to see it again?
Yeah, I mean, I primarily play Le Mans Ultimate at this moment in time. I've always said that if Creator Series ever did a LMU, I'd be there. They brought an event in, and I think everyone from the chat was like, let's do this more often. And it's just a different type of racing, isn't it? It's a little bit more thinking, a little bit more chill. So it's very much my vibe. I'd happily do this again.
Couldn't have put it better myself, ladies and gentlemen. Dirk Chocolate, massive congratulations. P4 on the road, whether it's by choice or not. Exceptional result. Enjoy your evening. Really well done.
Thank you, boys. Thank you, chaps.
Brilliant. There you go. And breathe. The dust has settled on Le Mans Ultimate Day 1. Tom, how do you even summarise an event like that?
It's difficult because it's a lot longer than broadcast that both you and I would have to normally contest with, but good fun. I think that's the best way of putting it. We saw lots of different dynamics unfolding, whether it was at the sharp end, the mid-pack, or towards the back. I think every single aspect, we had something to talk about and something to dig our teeth into, whether it was strategy, battles on circuit, chases going on. Really, really interesting to get involved with. And like we said, this is day 0, day 1, where it goes from here, hopefully, in a very positive direction, as we've already started that ascent.
Absolutely. What an evening it's been. An electric entertainment of endurance racing. Did not disappoint one bit. And all that really remains for us to say now as we reach the 3.5 hour mark of Le Mans Ultimate proceedings is a massive thank you to every single one of you for watching. As far as I've read, at least, you have all thoroughly enjoyed it, and that is wonderful. to see. If you want to get more and catch even more of the Creator Series fix, we have a slew of social medias down at the bottom left-hand side, or the bottom right-hand side, should I say. I don't know directions. That's why they put me here, but the point is go and follow them. Shameful if you don't. Meanwhile, though, it has also been an absolute pleasure, Mr. Tom Wilkinson, to do this alongside you. You already told us where we could find you, but one final time, at the very end of this adventure, where can we find you on an interweb?
On an internet, wilker.com's on TikTok and Instagram. Carl, same for you. Pleasure as always to jump in the box with yourself. Where can people find out what you're up to?
Can't find me, and that is masquerading in Maranello. You won't find me there. But where you will find me is at my name. Type that in most social media. You'll probably find me there. And it would be rude of me not to. Already, though, Rhinel83 said it, so I can't say it anyway. But well done, Gareth Allen. You're a legend, my friend. There we go. What a day, ladies and gentlemen. We've had all-out action from minute one, whether that was qualifying all the way through to the very last seconds of the race. Le Mans Ultimate came, it saw, and it certainly conquered. And, well, here's a thought to leave you all with. We have F1 25, we have iRacing, we complete the trifecta with Le Mans Ultimate. Triple Crown, anyone? Good night.